So I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6:01 PM. This is a special meeting for Thursday, May 9th, 2024, for budget deliberations. Madam Clerk.
Tim Hale.
Here.
Stephanie Nowers. Here. Dee McKee. Robert Yunt.
Here.
Bill Gamble.
Here.
Dimitri Fonoff.
Here.
And Assemblymember Bernier is almost here.
Okay, thank you. So are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, seeing none and hearing none, then the agenda is approved as presented. If you'll all stand, please. And Assemblyperson Nowers, would you lead us in the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda is audience participation. Do we have a sign? We do not have a sign-up sheet. So if anybody in the audience would like to address the assembly on budget or any other subject, you're welcome to come forth now. We have somebody online. We do not, Caleb. One last chance. Okay. We'll close audience participation, and then the next item is the budget deliberations. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 24024, an ordinance appropriating monies from the central treasury for the borough operating funds, enterprise funds, education operating fund, and capital funds, establishing the rate of levy for all borough functions for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, and ending June 30th, 2025, and setting the surcharge rate for the wireline and wireless enhanced 911 systems for the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025.
Okay, the main motion is on the floor, and the budget is up for amendments and debate. And then we have blue packet, right? And so a blue packet plus one white sheet of amendments so far. So let me see who, and we start with this first one will be amendment number 4.
Yeah.
Okay, because we did 3 amendments the other night. And so Assemblyperson Fonoff, would you like to move your amendment?
I'd like to offer an amendment. This amendment, do I need to read the whole thing?
Not the bolded area, just start out with I moved, yes.
I move to amend as follows to make any other conforming changes to the budget. Gold Trail SRSA reduce the mill rate from 1.88 to 1.70, thereby reducing property tax revenues 311.100 by 244,908, and the Gold Trail RSA non-departmental transfer to 455/4105, 46.400 by decreasing the appropriation by the amount of 244,908. And that's it.
Alrighty. And before we start a discussion, I'll let the record show that Assemblyperson Bernier has arrived at 6:05. Okay?
So.
Would you like to speak to this, sir?
Yeah, we've went through with the department manager, with Manager Brown and myself about what can be done, and obviously it's still an increase to mill rate from I think 1.6 to 1.7, but so basically it's agreed upon department. So and I'm just hoping to have that support. That's it.
Discussion on amendment number 4. Is there objection to amendment number 4? Hearing none, then amendment number 4 has been adopted. Amendment number 5, Deputy Mayor Yount.
I move to amend as follows and make any other conforming changes to the budget. The area-wide fund non-departmental transfer to 415, 425, 430, 435, 440, 470 by increasing the appropriation by the amount of $50,000 and adding the capital project Colony Baseball Field Improvement Grant for the amount of $50,000 with the following project description. A grant will be provided to the Colony Knights Baseball Booster Club for the purpose of improving the Colony baseball field. And if I may speak to it
Yes,
briefly?
you may, sir.
This group of parents and community members that have been working on getting this done is amazing. This project is years overdue, in my opinion, and they've raised just over $100,000 right now from community members. So the way I see it is if the, the community's willing to put that much money behind it, and that's actual money, that's not, people going and doing things
Behind.
volunteering, right? There's been a lot of that too, so I think this is amazing. I think it's money well spent, and it's just trying to match a part of the community buy-in, so I would appreciate support. Thank you very much.
Discussion on amendment number 5. Objection to amendment number 5. Seeing and hearing none, then amendment number 5 has been approved. And amendment number 6, Deputy Mayor also.
I move to amend as follows and make any other conforming changes to the budget. The area-wide fund, non-departmental transfer, City of Wasilla planning by increasing the appropriation by the amount of $100,000 and increasing the capital project of City of Wasilla planning grant by the amount of $100,000. The intent of this amendment is to give Wasilla extra money to fund their planning department, and then the city can use their own funds towards designing completion of a water line extension. Again, this is a community buy-in match. They got a great project going there that's, the community is actually gonna be putting their own money into, to the tune of $100,000+. And I think anytime the community's willing to buy into something and make improvements to a government system that in this particular case, it's to help a church in town, and the church could go a totally different direction and solve their problems for that amount of money. But it doesn't go in the direction of the community. It doesn't go in the direction to head towards Seward Meridian for the water system. They're willing to have their money go in that direction, but it wouldn't go far enough to solve their problems, so they can't go that way. This would create a partnership where their money would go in the right direction, and then we match it. I think it's brilliant. I'm grateful that they're willing to do that. It's gonna slow them down a little bit, because now we gotta wait and get us involved in the City of Wasilla, but that's all right. I think it's better for everybody in the long run. So that's what this amendment's for. Thank you.
Discussion on amendment number 6. Objection to amendment number 6. Seeing and hearing none, amendment number 6 has passed. Amendment number 7.
3 in a row. Lonnie did this on purpose. Just teasing. I move to amend as follows and make any other conforming changes to the budget. The area-wide fund, planning and land use, community cleanup, permanent wages and benefits, eliminating the new cleanup coordinator position and decreasing the appropriation for wages by the amount of $55,024 and benefits by $52,184. I will not be reading the rest of those bullet points into the record. And at the bottom, this amendment eliminates the community cleanup program coordinator position by the manager and decreases the mill rate by .007.
Would you like to speak to it, sir?
I would, yeah. We made a lot of forward progress last year. I know there was testimony from some members in the community that thought we needed to hire a bunch more positions to help with this. And I said at the time I guess I was taking on the new role of the retired George McKee, but I don't know that more employees is really the answer. I think what we did was brilliant. I think the whole program we did last year cost around $150,000, give or take. And I don't necessarily think $107,000 a year forever is the solution when, we cleaned up, 30, 35, 40 code enforcement issues with that program. What we need to do is use the money to empower our current code enforcement officers to give them creative solutions, like Dimitri came up with a car program, or like these other creative solutions everybody up here came up with, and solve the problem that way. I see this as being a couple of year problem, not a 20-year add another FTE for life problem. So that's the basis of my amendment. Thank you.
Discussion on amendment number 7. Yes, Assemblyperson Hale, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate what you're trying to do here, but I do think that the community cleanup coordinator position is gonna be really instrumental in helping do some of these cleanup projects that we're doing. I know, some of the folks from co-compliance are really looking forward to having someone that they can say, hey, here's a potential property, reach out to this person and find out how we can clean it up. You know, there's a place, right over by my place where the fellow who lives there wants to get the place cleaned up and is handicapped and is in a wheelchair, and he's a prime example of what, I think this community cleanup coordinator, could be working on. So, I do think that this proposed position is important.
Okay, Assemblyperson Nowers, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to clarify, the bullet points were not read, but that is the intent, that those are all included, or did you strike those?
No, originally my intent was to take the revenue from this and move it over to the planning or to the Public Works and have their FTE be only a 2-year position. I have pulled back on that, and I'm gonna allow their department to hire a full-time engineer for a permanent position. So that's why I didn't read the rest of this into the record. And so the only thing this amendment would do, as I read it, would just eliminate that one position, and Public Works will still be hiring their full-time employee.
So it would use the funds from that to
Ins-
hire the 2-year employee that you're talking about?
No,
Oh,
there'll
okay.
be no more 2-year position. It will be a full-time one
Okay,
forever.
Okay.
And instead, we'll use the money to decrease the mill rate.
so you're just seeking to eliminate the community cleanup program coordinator, no other direction?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And lower the mill rate with it.
Okay, thank you. And maybe, I just would appreciate, we have heard a lot from the community on the cleanup program. It's one of those, the borough does a lot of things. And some things are more visible than others, and that seemed like a visible thing, and there's a real value to that in the community when people see that their government is working for them. And so I appreciate that, and I just wonder if maybe we could get a little bit of a staff insight into, running a community cleanup with or without this position, because I can see the value in this potential position, so.
Go ahead, sir.
So, through the mayor, and I will allow Jason Ortiz to express his opinion. We don't necessarily agree on this, I don't think. My rationale for putting this position in the proposed budget was the Assembly had seemingly expressed pretty strong desire to execute a pretrial diversion program. And there's no way we can administer that with current staff. So I put that in here for that purpose. If this position doesn't go in there, we won't execute the pretrial diversion program. It doesn't mean we won't go and work on private property cleanup efforts with existing staff. That was my rationale. Now, if you want to hear from Jason a little bit more about where he sees value in the addition of this position, I am comfortable with our opinions being a little bit different. Like, I value the input of having staff with how they would execute that, and if the Assembly wants, I'm comfortable with him sharing where he thinks there's value in retaining this position. Now, obviously, if we retain the position in the proposed budget, I think we would go after the pretrial diversion program. But it's pretty clear we won't be doing that if this gets removed.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Through the mayor to the Assembly, and to Assembly Member Nowers. So the cleanup coordinator, I guess the one thing, I think where Mike and I saw a couple little differences is like this position in itself. Last year, the Assembly had 2 special meetings regarding junk and trash. I can't think of any other topics where the Assembly had special meetings, and it's a hot topic issue. One of the things that we worked with law, worked together, we established a program that could be very effective, would be a diversion program. What the diversion program looks like, with Manager Brown was talking about, is where a potential person that's charged with a crime, they would say, for example, they have little to no criminal record. they would be given an opportunity to say, right before that arraignment time, the district attorney can come up to them and say, hey, if you do 100 hours of community service with the borough, we'll make your charge go away. We'll make that case go away. What Manager Brown was talking about is currently with our capacity, we do not have the ability to manage that program. And that's where this coordinator would come in. What that looks like a multitude of different things. We can take properties and put some real impact and get some change. I can tell you 3 assembly members up here who have in their neighborhood have some pretty egregious places that we can try tackling. We've established some policies and procedures, forms, waivers, and processes to be able to implement this program and take it into effect. I think it could be a very effective program. I think it would be the single most thing that you'd be able to do to actually effectuate change throughout the borough. The other thing I would say is if you're not willing to do it, if you're not willing to invest into us at this time, I would think, or at least consider, make it a project employee. Put the onus on us and say, will this program work? If you have it as a 3-year program, if it works, it's successful. If it doesn't, you're not investing into that RFT program. So I think it has a potential to do really well. I know Assemblymember Fonoff was really interested in some of the opportunities and outreach with nonprofits. We established that. We did the survey. We surveyed 1,186 nonprofits. We got about a dozen that are interested, and quite a few that continue to call frequently. This program would allow that coordinator to use those nonprofits to do some of the cleanups where a diversion program would not be necessarily the best thing to do this program. So I could take any questions that you guys have. I think it has a lot of value and be able to answer anything that you might have.
Deputy Mayor?
Quick question for the, if we ran this as a 2 or 3 year project position, would that not require fully funding that position today, Mike?
The way, if you were going to do it via project employee, I'd fund it for 1 year. Otherwise, we're going to have to get into some pretty complicated changes on the fly. What is in the proposed budget, that funding would fund this employee for 1 year. If you wanted to fund it for 3 years tonight, we would have to find funding from someplace else or raise a mill rate.
So to confirm then, if this were to pass tonight as is, no, so say I had never brought this amendment, it was only a 1 year position. Okay.
As it's, through the mayor, as it stands in the proposed budget, it is a regular, full-time, permanent position.
And that's my issue. So if we want to make it a 1 year position, I'm all for that. That would be an amendment that I would support in a heartbeat. We got rid of dozens of very severe issues last year, or cases, I should say. And it was me that asked for the special meeting. It was me that called for that. I see the need in the community as well, but we solved a lot of problems last year, and it wasn't to the tune of $107,000 a year for life. And that's my issue with this position. So if somebody wants to offer a friendly amendment and make it in a 1 year, I would accept that.
Through the mayor and to Assembly.
1 year project, I should say. Yeah.
The only thing I would offer is if this is gonna result in like another department being axed because of that, I wouldn't wanna do that. I mean, in my opinion, like as an employee here, we are all one team. I do not wanna see another department suffer because of this position. So if that's it, I'd be willing to sit out on this one and not do it, but like I said, that's my only comment on that.
Yes, Cheyenne.
Through the mayor to the assembly. You can do this one of 2 ways. You could make it a project employee and move the money to a project fund. Or you could just stipulate in this budget that this FTE is only for 1 year. And next year, when we bring back the budget, we would not bring back the budget with this position in it.
Wouldn't that be simplest? Okay.
If I may, I'll just make the amendment. Can I amend my own amendment? Can I do that? Okay, so, all right, I'll make the amendment. I'd like to do it as a project, and here's why. I want a biannual, let's get a twice yearly update. Let's see where we're at it within 6 months, what they've done, and then we'll look at it again in 10 or 11 months and determine if we need to keep the position. So like I said, we solved so many problems last year, which is great. I want to keep doing that, but we did it with the staff that we have. And I'm not okay hiring another lifetime, full-time employee, you know? I don't think we need it. So if we want to do it for 1 year and, see how the results are at the end of the year, and then consider maybe doing it again, I'll support that. So that's my amendment, project position, 1 year, and then we'll review next budget season.
You want to address that, sir?
I'll let you.
Yeah, so through the mayor, to Mr. Yunt, what we're saying here is just make it a regular full-time employee for 1 year. That, the benefit to that, not making it a project employee, is PERS would be attached to it, so it's gonna be a little easier to recruit, for that. Whereas if it's a project employee, that component will not be involved. And we would have to actually amend the benefits, correct?
We could amend the benefits.
I guess
if-
we don't have to.
We don't have to amend the benefits.
Yeah, our preference from simplicity would be to just stipulate in your amendment or in a secondary amendment that this is for 1 year. That way, we have to come back and get your approval to go beyond 1 year for this employee.
So I guess I don't understand PERS very well, but is there not a vesting period? Is there not like a 3 or 5 year minimum? So I don't know that that's a very good carrot to hang in front of a potential new employee when it's a 1 year position. Anyways, I could be wrong. Tim's got ideas, so I'll let him speak, or Ron next.
Well, I would just say that anyone we hire might already have some time in PERS, right? And that would be someone who is already qualified for the position, would likely have other governmental work in their history.
Okay, Assemblyperson Bernier.
Can I get
Now,
a
we're just doing the amendment. Go ahead, you need clarification?
clarification on the duties and responsibilities of this position?
Okay.
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Bernier in the Assembly, I'll just keep it simple because we could have a special meeting right now about community cleanup if we're not careful. This position would be responsible for coordinating private property cleanup efforts.
Nothing
The
to do.
difference is right now, the borough, for many years, we have focused on borough lands and borough rights-of-way, period. What we're doing now is venturing into this idea of how do we help clean up private property that are likely active junk and trash cases, and how do we leverage taxpayer funds to do that? So this would be focused on private property cleanup. We're not gonna apply this position to cleaning up public rights-of-way and borough lands. We already do that.
And nothing to do with community council or organizing?
Oh, certainly it will. Certainly, they'll be coordinating with nonprofits, they'll be coordinating with community councils, they can be coordinating with the district attorney's office. Like, that's the value of having somebody that can administer something that we currently really don't do on a large scale. We do spots here and there, but with the existing staff that we have. This would allow us to set up a program and go after that, and try to figure out different ways to pull partners together to accomplish more. And we will have a discussion. The idea was to have a discussion in a more detailed setting at the August special meeting that you all requested. We were planning on talking about community cleanup at that time.
Assemblyperson Gamble?
Two things. First of all, the current PERS is Tier 4, is that correct? So if they weren't retained after the year, they'd be able to withdraw the money and put it into another retirement account, or they could just withdraw it and pay the penalty and do with it whatever they wanted, correct?
Through the mayor, that's correct. They wouldn't be fully vested.
Okay. Second point is, we used to do this in the fire service area, exactly what Jason was talking about, where we would bring in people that were offenders and that they were doing community service hours, and it was just an absolute boon to the fire service areas to bring them into the fire department. They'd help us, mop floors and clean hose and whatever we needed them to do, and that's how they worked off their community service hours, and it was a great program for the fire service areas.
Assemblyperson Fauna?
There is some of the emails that they got, some of the community text message emails I got was under impression that this would be another quote compliance officer. It is not, just so for the it is community coordinator. So that doesn't, I just want to make that clear. One of the severe cases in my district specifically, community council has been asking, says, just give us permission, we'll go clean it, we'll get it done. It's more on the legal side, and I talked to Nick and things like that. So I think having that an extra person there it's not gonna resolve those things. There's people that want to do the work. These nonprofit organizations, they have, some people are going through some programs, they have time on their hands. We just need to give them a green light. Do we need a person just for that? I'm not sure. It's a pretty expensive spending. I do think if, let's say one of these nonprofits that, or somebody who's calling Jason, we say, hey, we give you $25,000, which is for us to have a, for you guys to coordinate that with, community or whatever, so that we don't have another person, and then they just report and get permission when a property has, we have legal right or whatever it is that takes for them to go clean up. I think that would be money well more, spent well. I think a lot of these issues on the severe cases, it's the legal battle to get permission to do the work. So this position, I don't think it's gonna resolve those severe cases. That's just my understanding from, based on the situation that I have on a severe case. And that person obviously is not gonna go and, this position that we're creating is not gonna go physically clean the trash neither. So I want to make sure we have a full understanding. I think maybe set aside some money and give it to coordinate the, let's say, the supervisor or whoever in that, within that nonprofit organization, on a lot smaller dollar amount, and they will coordinate directly already now, whether it's taking these volunteers to the property, providing them transportation or whatever. I think we take liability off our hand and we work with them. So that would be an approach that I would want to see with a cleanup and coordinating with the people that are actually going to be coordinating the workers that are cleaning these properties. That's that I have.
Assemblyperson Hale.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Not to the amendment, but clarification for the position. Would this person also be able to coordinate the junk vehicle removal program? Is that, would those kind of two roles kind of mesh, or?
Through the mayor to Mr. Hale, I don't think that's necessary. We didn't have a person to do tow reimbursement last year. I don't think it's required. We're gonna probably bid it out, award a contract, and have the contractor deal with that. I think that's the way that's gonna work. So I don't know that the borough wants to be in the middle of that. We purposefully stayed out of that because it's a transfer of property, and we did not want to be the middle person on those transactions. So I don't think so.
Deputy Mayor Yon.
Yep, back to my amendment. So I agree 100% with everything you just said. I really do. I was actually bummed when I talked to Mike about this, and I just said, I see this as being another 2 to 3 years of really hard work to get us out of the position we're in right now. I mean, based on all the forward progress we made last year, right? I just didn't want this to be a forever position. I also did not want to see the no pretrial, or the pretrial diversion program going away, but I understand, Mike and Jason are very overwhelmed right now. We're all busy, and so if this position were to go away, there would be no pretrial diversion, right? So I think this strikes a happy medium. I would like to see this pass as amended, allowing the PERS. I really, doesn't matter to me either way. So whatever's easiest, right? So.
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Yunt. Right now, it's just easier to move the whole cost of the employee wages and benefits to the project, if that's what you want to do.
Would that allow for a PERS, so that, like Tim said, somebody that's maybe already been?
If they're a project employee, they do not qualify for PERS
Then,
as a project
then I don't want to
employee.
do it as a project employee.
So then just leave them in the budget as a, specify they are only a one-year employee, and next year we have to bring it back as a new employee if that's what we want to
Okay.
do.
So that's, my amendment. I'm amending my amendment to make it a one-year position. And I don't think that spending another $107,000 with management last year, per se, would have improved what we did last year very much. But I think with the addition of the pretrial diversion program, we could see drastically better results. I really do believe that. And I think that's, this strikes that happy medium. I don't think this is a forever position. But this also still, gets that diversion program in there. So I would love to see it pass as amended. And, well, it's not amended yet. We better vote on the
We
amendment.
already
I'm
have
gonna
the
stop
amendment.
talking.
We already have
I'm-
the amendment on the floor.
I'm gonna stop talking.
Kim,
Yeah,
Let's
right.
focus
Yeah.
on the
We
amendment.
have the amendment on the floor.
Mayor, can I make a clarification in
Sure.
the language then if we're going to, because now you're not eliminating it, so all your amendment needs to be, if you're not going to eliminate this position, is you're amending it to a one-year position, and basically, none of the language needs to be there.
There, I got that.
You got
So
that?
I will make sure that when the language reads, is that it's not eliminating anything. Because
Right.
the intent of the secondary, I understood.
So, I mean, essentially, this whole amendment is just to make this position a one-year employee
That's what
only.
the secondary amendment is right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, discussion on secondary amendments, Assembly Person. Hale, go
Specifically
ahead.
to the secondary amendment. I disagree that this is a short-term problem. This is a forever problem. Junk and trash, we're gonna be dealing with this every year for as long as humans occupy this borough, so.
All righty, so we're ready for,
Just a clarification. So the original amendment was to eliminate this program coordinator. The secondary is to make it a one-year position. Don't you just go back to don't you withdraw the original amendment? And it just seems weird to amend it
No.
and then pass it with, okay.
If the secondary amendment passes, it would read, the area-wide fund planning and land use community cleanup permanent wages, and cleanup coordinator position would be a one-year employee. That's how it would read, should the secondary amendment pass.
okay, further discussion? Is there any objection to the secondary amendment? You have objection, sir, or we're just on the secondary amendment to make it a one-year position? Okay.
I'm okay with that one.
He said it was okay.
He said it's okay.
Okay, so one last chance. Any objection to the secondary amendment? Okay, seeing none, then the secondary amendment has passed. And now we're back to the main motion as amended. And does anybody need to have that read, or we're all good? Oh.
Discussion.
Assembly Person Fawnoff, go ahead.
I still think now, I much rather see that money doing work. Last year, with $50,000, with only $50,000, 250 cars were removed, okay? That amount is, I much rather see money used to do work than for the person. We did not create a single position. We had several meetings, and money, every single dollar of that went to do the work. I still think working with these nonprofits organizations directly is more effective money spent than having an employee here. We already have good staff, and I think that's what they're there for, is to already focus on this issue. Now we're just expanding the partnership a little further, so I would be hesitant to support just that money spent, even if it's for 1 year. Much rather see it going to actually doing the cleanup instead of paying somebody's salary. That's just my opinion on this.
Okay, so you have an objection to the main motion then?
Well, no, because there is no exit out. Now that's amended. If I objected, that position stays there.
No. Madam Clerk?
No, but if I was to vote this down on amendment, then that position is created as in the budget. Yes. So I'd need to, whatever that happens, then I'd need to pull a separate amendment to eliminate that position, to make it more clean. So regardless how I vote on this, it doesn't achieve my results. So I would like to be focused, like I said, money spent. So instruct me how to vote or propose an amendment, but that's just my opinion, because it doesn't change right now. The fund's still there one way or another.
Okay,
I can instruct people how to vote, Madam Mayor.
yeah, okay.
I can say what's on the floor. I can't instruct somebody how to vote. However, what's on the floor right now is making the planning and land use community cleanup coordinator position a one-year employee. That's what's on the floor right now. It's not eliminating anything.
This doesn't change the financial portion of it. It's just basically from a 1 year, from a full-time employee, we made a full year, 1 year employment. It doesn't change
Well-
the finances as amended.
Yeah, right, and every position, when we do the budget, my interpretation, okay, Cheyenne, help me, Lord, if I'm misrepresenting this, but when we're doing the budget now, every employee for the borough is on a one-year budget. You understand? Next year, when we're doing the budget, then those employees may or may not be there, depending on what Mike comes forth with. So, you see what I'm saying?
Okay, then I would like to offer amendment to make this a part-time job, and for half of the money, or whatever that threshold it meets, that it doesn't offer benefits. Because I don't think you need to be there's a full-time position needed to coordinate between the community council and thing. Please instruct me, Cheyenne, how to do this, to this amendment, or pass this, and then make a separate amendment after this one passed to make this a part-time job.
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Fonoff, I believe what you want to do is cut the wages and benefits in half and make this a 1,000-hour on-call employee.
That would be the direction I'd want to see
Okay,
it.
so Madam Clerk, would it be more appropriate for him to do it now, or, okay? So we will, if you want to make that in the form of a motion, sir, then that'll be an amendment to this ordinance.
I'd like to amend it so that this is a 1,000-hour job, preferably for a part-time for the season while it's, there's no snow on the ground, because I don't see that position's needed when it's in the, when it's in the winter with 8 or 10 months or whatever it is. So here's,
So your total wages and benefits will be $53,000.
okay. I move to amend the compensation to 50, the wages and benefits to total to $53,604.
Okay, all right.
And I'm going to speak on it based, to ask you for your support on that, because I think this position is needed when it's this weather, not in the middle of the winter for that. And I think there's going to be some, maybe we'll be able to find a person like that.
Okay, so Assemblyperson Hale?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. To the
Oh,
secondary amendment.
I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor.
To the secondary amendment, and I'll be brief. I'm going to oppose this for the reasons that I have already spoken at.
Okay. Whose light is on? Ron, is that yours?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna support this because every time it snows, we have a good cleanup, every time.
Deputy Mayor, I'll finally get to you.
I have a
I'm sorry.
clarification question for Ms. Cheyenne. If Dimitri's amendment were to pass, I think the intent of his amendment is obviously to make it a 1,000-hour position, but that would then use the savings to decrease the bill rate by .0035, correct? Approximately. I know that wasn't very approximate, but it's
Actually, it's .0038.
even better. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so if Mr. Fonoff's, this amendment would reduce it to a 1,000-hour position, and then it would reduce the mill rate by .0038, correct? Okay. No matter what we do, we're taking a gamble on if we will receive the benefit from the pretrial diversion program. I think we will receive great benefit from that, and I'm a big believer in second chances. So I actually, You know, my original amendment that I brought here this evening, that was the part about it that really, it bummed me out. I didn't think it was a forever position. I think as amended, it offers a happy medium, but I am fully going to support Mr. Fawnoff's amendment, and I will tell you why. We're not doing any community cleanup in the wintertime anyways. It's not happening. It's not happening. So this is better fit as a 1,000-hour position. Great job.
Okay. Any further discussion? Oh, Assemblyperson Hours?
Thank you. You know, I guess I'm leaning towards supporting it as a one-year trial because I think I think you just have more chance of success having a full-time person versus trying to find somebody who's going to part-time it. And then to Mr. Fawnoff's point about turning it over to a nonprofit, I think at the end of a year, like that person could also look at working with the nonprofits to turn it over because I don't think we could take 25,000 right now and pass that to a nonprofit. I mean, they have a lot of stuff going on, and you know, if we kind of stand up a program and then we can kind of hand it off and say, okay, this is, you know, there's a lot of coordination that has to happen between the nonprofits, the property owners, the legal. I can see that position just being very critical to making those connections. So I think I'd like to see this succeed, and I'd like to see it. That's why I would support doing it as a full-time 1 year and see how that goes. And with part of the intent, seeing if we can pass that to a nonprofit like you're talking about after the year.
Further discussion on the amendment to make, Assemblyperson Gamble, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question for staff or the manager. I'd like to know what your vision of this position would be in the wintertime when there was snow on the ground. How would you utilize this staff position?
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Gamble. So in anticipation of this position that which we thought was going to come in, kind of prepared some policy forms, like how this position would go down, and worked with legal. And we had planned to talking to the assembly about this in August during the special meeting, and not trying to hash it out here. But we would not see this as tackling those egregious cases. It would not be doing those, because this has to have buy-in from the property owner, and you have to be choosing properties that are going to be not going to recidivate and not going to go back to the same state. In the wintertime, I did talk with various other departments, and there is possibility for them to be doing stuff with the trail crews. There's possibilities for them to be doing in other locations throughout the borough through working this diversion program. As far as cleanup, we do have a lot of cases that are just like piles of junk, like trash, like literal garbage bags of trash that create code compliance cases. Those are types of things where this can still happen and occur in the winter. Obviously, we get a heavy snowfall, that can happen right there, but code compliance doesn't just stop in the winter. We're working all year long, 4 officers throughout the entire borough. So there are projects that they'll be able to tackle. There will be complications of a heavy weather-related event, though. So, but there's definitely going to be work for them to do. So, did that answer your question, sir?
Okay, Assemblyperson
Yeah, and
Gamble, go
that was
ahead.
my point. Thank you, Mayor.
Follow up.
We used to, just more of a comment than a question. We used to use this program all year round, and Assemblymember Yount and I just had a conversation that, you know, it'd have to come indoors, a lot of it would. And so that was going to be my point, you know, how, could this position coordinate with other departments that could use the pretrial diversion program to help things that they needed done, like at the animal care facility or the recycle center or something like that. So I see that position being able to help year-round, not just in the summertime. They'd probably be most effective in the spring, summer, and fall, but they could work all year round. Thank you.
Okay, Assemblyperson Fawnoff, go ahead.
Just as I personally, you know, I'm big about the cleanup, but I do think effective time of cleanup is probably end of April till maybe September or till the first snowfall. I think that's enough time. Instead of saying right away full-time employee, let's give it a part-time, see how effective it is, and then once we get the benefits of that part-time job and say, okay, we deserve this to be a permanent, and then next year we'll rediscuss it. It'd be a lot more difficult getting a full-time and then trying to cut it to part-time or completely eliminating that person, because, you know, there's always gonna be arguments why that position should stay. Let's start it slow. I would ask for your support on this amendment.
Assemblyperson Hale, oh, no, okay.
Sorry, I just realized that I would be speaking to the primary, so.
Okay, all righty. So the amendment before you is to reduce it to, oh, I'm sorry, Assemblyperson.
Yeah, so just to be
Campbell.
clear, an on-call position can only work 19 hours a week, is that correct? Finance Director, through the mayor?
They can work no more than 29 hours a week.
Okay,
If you want to spread their time out through the whole year, it's about 19 to 20 hours.
right. So if we had an on-call position for a full year and they were doing wintertime work also, we may not get the full bang. I think it would be more prudent to have this position, like Assemblymember Yount amended, as a full-time position for 1 year to see how it works through the winter also, how effective and productive it is. And then after a year, we can reevaluate, and if they weren't as productive in the wintertime as we'd like them to be, then we can always go back to an on-call employee.
Deputy Mayor, Yount, go ahead.
Just some clarification here to help everyone out. Knowing that you could work up to 29 hours a week, that gives you the equivalent of a little over 34 weeks a year. So if, you know, if they did it, if they pace themselves, they turn this into a 25, 28, 29 hour a week job, which it probably is. I mean, they could get 8 months out of it, a little over 8 months. So it, not quite the whole year for sure, but it definitely gets them through the efficient part of the year when you can do most of the cleanup. So you can't go wrong either way. I'm going to support the 1,000-hour position, but I guess there's no wrong vote here. So I'll support Dimitri's amendment and for hope that they pace themselves and get 34 weeks out of it. So thank you.
So I think I heard objection to the amendment. So, does anybody need the amendment read to them? Everybody understands, okay? So, Madam Clerk?
The members in the room can vote on the secondary amendment. I guess all the members are in the room. If I can get you to vote on the secondary. Madam Mayor, it passed with Assemblymember Hale, Gamble, and Nowers opposed.
Okay, so now we have back before us, the main amendment number 7, is that right? Changing it to the 1,000 hour, what do you call it, per year, I guess?
Yeah,
Yeah,
1,000 hour
on-call.
employee.
On call. Okay, any further amendments? Yes, Assemblyperson Hale.
Just discussion on the primary,
Okay.
if I may. I think we're gonna have a real hard time finding someone who is qualified for this job as a part-time position. I think that a coordinator position is a year-round position. They don't go outside. They're not out there picking up trash. They are coordinating. And a good coordinator would spend the downtime months working with the nonprofits, working with the partners, coordinating the partners so that in the springtime, when the snow was gone, they could hit the ground running. And I think it's a big mistake to go to this part-time position. I think what's going to happen is we're not going to see the results that we want to see from this position because of what we have done here. So I am going to oppose the primary amendment.
Okay, Assemblyperson Bonner.
I'm gonna support this amendment, or the primary, just because 8 months a year, somebody working part-time that doesn't have to work through the heart of the winter, I think that's a pretty good way to find somebody, an elderly person maybe, that can make those phone calls, have the communications, and take off for the winter.
Okay, Deputy Mayor?
If Cheyenne could please let us know approximately what this position would pay per hour. And then, because, like, Tim's got valid concerns, maybe, I don't know, I was just wondering about what this would pay about per hour. So, just, because what you're paying determines what you get, you know?
Sure, go ahead.
Sitting here idle. I just want to encourage the assembly that we have many more amendments to do, and we're well over a half an hour on this. We really did intend to talk about community
want
cleanup at the
our
August
dollar
special
amount. They
meeting,
don't want
as
it.
you requested. I'm not trying to be, it's just, we're talking about hourly wages for part-time employees now.
Okay, go ahead, Sharon.
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Yunt. At this point, since we have to write a job description and classify it, it's estimated that this position would be paid $26.45 an hour.
Okay. All righty, Assemblyperson
To
Fawn.
clarify, so if we vote to support this amendment, we have a part-time instead of full-time. If we vote down this amendment, it goes back to the full-time. Is that my understanding?
Is that right?
Is that? Okay, so I'm in favor. I think we can find a person who, within those organization, who would work directly with Jason Chase, who would directly have impact with the people. I think it gives them that access to our, communication with departments. I think it would be effective. I would ask to support this amendment. I personally will be doing it, so.
Okay. Is there objection? We do have objection, so.
We can get the members to vote on the primary amendment as amended. Madam Mayor, it passed with Assemblymember Hale, and now we're opposed.
Okay. All righty, so amendment number 7 is done. All righty, amendment number 8, Assemblyperson Fawnoff.
Yes, I move to amend as follows and make any other conforming changes to the budget. The other contractual appropriation of 150,000 shall be utilized, 75,000 for the vehicle removal program and 75,000 for community cleanup on private properties. This amendment does not impact mill rate or fund balance. And I want to speak on that because last year we've tried program, we got good feedback. We removed, I believe, 250 cars. That's what our limit at $200 or I'm hoping to negotiate it. Hopefully we can put out on a bid and whoever gets it will be able to offer the better price. If it's at the same price, it'll move 375 cars. If we can go negotiate down to 150, it'd be at 500 cars. I think it's a money very well spent. It doesn't, this doesn't change anything. It's just out of the 150,000 that we already allocated for cleanup, we're just dedicating $75,000 towards the program.
Further discussion, Assemblyman, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor Yunt.
Yeah, Dimitri
written
touched on
down.
it already, but bidding it out, last time came about pretty quick last year, and we had a lot of great results, but it was our first time doing it. We're a little more prepared this year, so and I know Mike will, but if we could just please bid it out and then, stretch the dollars as far as possible, that'd be great. Thanks.
Assemblyperson Hale.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. A question for the manager. What does other contractual in this line item usually cover?
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Hale, the other contractual would be such things as renting dumpsters. In Assemblymember Fawnoff's comments, maybe approving a grant to a nonprofit or assisting a nonprofit with that kind of cleanup. So it'd be that kind of stuff.
Okay, I fully support this.
Okay. Objection to amendment number 8. See no objection, amendment number 8 has passed. Amendment number 9, Assemblyperson Fawnoff.
I move to amend as follows and make any other conforming changes to the budget. Area-wide fund, non-departmental transfer 415, 425, 430, 435, 440, 470 by decreasing the appropriation by the amount of 281,886 and decreasing the capital budget EMS Zoll X series cardiac monitors by the amount of 281,886. This project will decrease the area-wide mill rate by 0.02, and if I briefly may speak about that, I spoke to Ken Barkley a while back, talked to Manager Brown. There was these cardiac monitors still have life left on it. We're gonna get extra year out of it. The way this amendment, and I think, if I remember correctly, there was maybe 10, if I remember, I think, 12. This would only fund half of them this year, and we'll fund the other ones next year. So we still have not fully kicking a can down the road, but at least funding half of it now, and it helps the mill rate, and it doesn't, and it's between departments, they're okay with it too.
Further discussion on amendment number 9. Any object? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to offer a secondary amendment.
Okay,
I would like to decrease the appropriation by the total amount of $563,771 to zero out this project, and I'd like to speak to my amendment.
okay, yes, you
Okay.
may speak to your
Lonnie, did
amendment.
that make sense to you? Okay. So I also talked to Director Barkley about this project, and all of these Zoll X-Series monitors that they have right now are fully serviceable and will be for several more years. And they have a technician who comes up every year and works on them, and they also have spares that they can use should they have a problem with any of these monitors. So I think it would be more prudent for us to fund the striker gurneys this time and then zero out this line item, and next year fully fund the Zoll monitors. So that's my amendment and my rationale.
Deputy Mayor Yount, go ahead, sir.
Ken, could you come to the front, please, and speak to this, sir? I think they're both great ideas. I just want to hear from you, too.
Okay.
Good evening, Assembly, Mayor, and staff. Ken Barkley, Director of Emergency Services. So we actually have 28 Zoll monitors. 16 of them are, if they fail, they're not repairable and they cannot be upgraded. I'm sorry, 12 of them. The other 16 are due for upgrades, and we can still use them and upgrade them. So we have a total of 28, 12 that if they break down, they're not serviceable anymore, and we would still be okay for another year. If we defer, as Vonoff presented, we would do it in stages. We would purchase some this year and then the rest the following year. If we do with Assemblymember Gamble, we would just have to come back next year and purchase the full amount. And what we're trying to do is get them under contract. And when we purchase them moving forward, we're looking at a 7-year contract that would cover service, maintenance, shipping, and having somebody come up and maintain them for us when they're needed for repairs. And that's what we're looking at. As Assemblymember Gamble's expressing is, they're not due right now. Right now, we're okay. Next year is when we're gonna have to do something with them. So I hope that helps and answers your question. So
Assemblyperson Benir? Oh, okay, Assemblyperson Fana? Oh, I'm sorry.
The price, the price within a year could also increase, am I understanding correctly?
sure, we don't know what the price will be when I come forward next year in our budget. We can't predict that.
Okay. I mean, having to come up next year with considering possibly even more than 563,000, and there's probably gonna be other things that you will need. I would think it would be wise to start the process, and you said get on a contract, but I'd like to hear other assembly comments on that.
Assemblyperson Benir, go ahead.
And so, Ken, next year, we need to do all 16 of them then, or all 28?
We would try to go with 28. We want to get them under contract is why. Because we can't service them here. The upgrades can't be done. They have to have a tech come up. So we're trying to get it on like a service program where every year I don't have to come up every year for our gurneys, for our monitors. We want to get it on a regular schedule that we don't have to do that. So that's what I'm trying to do. And obviously, this is critical to our operation, something we must have. So that's,
What would you like to see done?
I'd like,
Seriously.
through the mayor, Assemblymember Bernier, we can make it work either way. I mean, we have to look at the taxpayers, you know, but we also have to look at the operations, what our needs are. And I think that if we were to do it in stages, we could do that, and that's probably the best, like purchase some of it now, and then that way they don't always expire at the same time is what I'm kind of, that's what I'm trying to work towards.
Deputy Mayor, what? Okay.
I'm gonna support Mr. Gamble's amendment, and here's why. Our job up here is to prioritize. It's to take the most important things and chip away at them before the second most important things. If we can make it another year, you know, our mill rate, we're dealing with a lot less inflation now than we were, say, 2-3 years ago. But, you know, what we're really doing, what you're seeing in this year's budget is an excellent program laid out by the manager to forward fund and do things out of pocket. We're doing a lot of great capital projects and different improvements across the borough out of pocket. And that's great, because that means we don't have to borrow the money to do it in the future. But I think with the mill rate where it is, and we would all like to see it lower, of course, I will support this, and we'll take it up next year. So, you know, and we'll focus on, like I said, the more important priorities this year. So I appreciate the manager's hard work on all of this year, and if you can make it one more year, sir, then I'm gonna support Mr. Gamble's amendment. I think it's a great one. Thank you.
I appreciate that. These were on our deferred list, so we can make it work.
Assemblyperson Gamble, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and my amendment does exactly what Ken is talking about. It offsets the purchase of gurneys and monitors, so we're not putting out $1.4 million in 1 year. We're only doing 700 and something thousand this year for the gurneys, and then we're gonna come back and do almost 600,000 next year for the monitors. So it actually accomplishes what Assemblymember Fonoff is describing. Thank you.
Discussion, further discussion on the primary amendment to, secondary amendment to number 9. Is there objection? Okay, seeing no objection, then secondary amendment to amendment number 9 has passed. And now it's for primary amendment. So now the primary amendment for number 9 as amended. Is there objection?
Just clarification, so as amended now with getting rid of the entire, we're gonna be decreasing the mill rate by 0.04 now, correct, Cheyenne?
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Yunt, yes.
Thank you.
Is there objection to main amendment number 9? See no objection, amendment number 9 has passed. Amendment number 10, Assemblyperson Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to amend as follows and make any other conforming changes to the budget. Do I need to read the bullet points? Okay. The area-wide fund, non-departmental transfer to 415, 425, 430, 435, 440, 470, and 446.700 by increasing the appropriation by the amount of $20,000 and adding the capital project J. Nolfe Park light installation for the amount of $20,000 with the following project description. The project will decrease the proposed fund balance and will not increase the mill rate. And I'd like to speak to the amendment.
Yes, you may.
Currently, at the J. Nolfe Fish Creek Park, there is no light in the parking lot, and there is a neighborhood that is directly adjacent to the park, and they came to me, and I would like to say that the majority of people that live in that neighborhood are elderly, and they do a lot of walking up and down that road. And they asked me to bring forward this amendment to provide a light in the parking lot there. There are a lot of cars that come in there when it gets dark in the fall, in the wintertime, in the spring before it gets light. And they feel very uncomfortable walking to the park. Also, the park is seeing vandalism, and I'm hoping for security reasons that this light will illuminate the parking lot and some of the park and hopefully deter any vandalism that's taking place. Thank you.
Discussion on amendment number 10. Objection to amendment number 10. We've seen and hearing none, amendment number 10 has passed. Amendment number 11. Assemblyperson Veneer, go ahead.
I move to amend the follows and make any conforming changes to the budget. The area-wide fund, community development, parks and recreation, other contractual, 429.900 by increasing the appropriation by the amount of 5,000. The increase in appropriations will provide 4,500 to rename the Willow Area Community Center to the Rosalie White Community Center, and 500 to provide a protective overhang to the Willow Museum entrance. This project will decrease the proposed fund balance and will not increase the mill rate.
Okay, you want to speak to it, sir? You have further explanation, or?
To my knowledge, resolution or ordinance in 1988 to name the community center was Rosalie White, and they,
Lost the lettering someplace along the
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
so,
So this is for lettering, so it more matches the new siding, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, further discussion. Assemblyperson Hours.
I would just say this is a good thing to get done after 36 years since it passed.
Further discussion on amendment number 11. Objection to amendment number 11. Seeing and hearing none, amendment number 11 has passed. Amendment number 12. Assemblyperson Benir again.
I move to amend as follows and make any conforming changes to the budget. The area-wide fund, non-departmental, educational operating by decreasing the appropriation by the amount of $100,092.
He's on
You
a
went
roll.
too far, Ron.
Oh, I'm on
You're
yours.
in the,
There you go.
Okay. I move to amend as follows and make any other conforming changes to the budget. The area-wide fund, non-departmental, transfer 415/420/430/435/440/470 446.700 by increasing the appropriation by the amount of 75,000 and adding the capital project for a grant to provide firearm safety training to residents. This project will decrease the proposed fund balance and will not increase the mill rate.
go ahead and speak to it, sir.
I want to take and give the people in our borough as much safety as they can afford, and where the troopers can't make it to Trappers Creek or other places in the borough, and we're always the first line of defense in our own safety. And so basically, I want to see some gun training classes for safety that's offered women, children, anybody that's vulnerable, elderly, and basically, just like going for a concealed carry, you got to have the gun training, but you got to know all the law part of it and stuff like that, and the legalities of it. So
Okay, Deputy Mayor Yon.
Best amendment of the night by far. Great job.
Assemblyperson Hale.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Who would be receiving the grant and doing the training? Do we have any ideas about that?
We've got the gun range out there at Susitna, North Susitna there. We also have in town, so different areas like, we've got Lake Louise, we've got Glacier View, Trappers Creek, Talkeetna, and stuff like that. So for somebody to just have one spot for the training, we need to provide somewhere to different locales and divide that 75,000 up and see if we can't contract it out to get our best deal we can for, because typically I believe it's $200 to $300 for a concealed carry for a class, depending on how in depth they go, right? So maybe, and they're teaching just a certain amount at a time, but if we could get more people in there at classes and stuff and make it more financially suitable for them.
Follow up, sir.
Yeah, so I'm assuming there are a number of training companies in the valley, and those folks would competitively apply for this grant, and then the money would be distributed through them, or to them, basically, okay.
Assemblyperson Hours, did you have a question?
Thank you. Through the mayor, I had the same question, how it's gonna be administered. If it does go forward, I would wanna see it spread around, so people across the borough could do this, but I'm gonna oppose this, and it's gonna be for the same reason that Assemblymember Yunt mentioned earlier, you know, like we're trying to protect the taxpayer and spend the money on the most important things that are front and center, and then chip away at the others. And when I look at this, I think a lot of people in the valley know how to use guns already. There's hunter safety training, which you can take for free. And I don't know that the borough needs to step into this. And I think about the administration of the grant itself. So you're taking money and like, now we're gonna, you know, we got rid of the business license thing because of that, you know, amount of work that it took to do these entities. So I don't see it as the most important thing right now. I'd rather take that 75,000 and maybe keep it and put it into the vehicle and community cleanup. So I'm gonna vote against it at this point because I think on the taxpayer, if they were to say, what should we prioritize with 75,000? There's other things we can spend on, and if it's in fund balance next year, that means we can take it out of mill. So I just think there's other free avenues right now. We could push the state to do more hunter safety training. I think that would be another option without taking 75,000 out of the taxpayers' funds, because at the end of the day, this is taxpayer money, whether it, you know, touches the mill rate now or not. So, yeah, I think there's other things we could be spending that 75,000 on that are going to make a bigger difference for the valley right now. Not that this is a bad thing at all.
Okay, yes. Let's see, Assemblyperson Hale, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just had a question. How much would would $75,000 reduce the mill rate if we were to just simply remove that money from the budget at the end, when we adjust the fund balance down?
It wouldn't affect it, I don't think, because it's out of the fund balance. Isn't that right?
Yeah, but he's asking if you just take it out of the budget completely.
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Hale. Right now, it won't affect fund balance, but as if it was just reduced out of, the 75,000 was reduced out of the budget, it would save the mill rate .005.
Which is how many dollars?
Dollars?
I'm just saying, how much would that affect my pocketbook personally, as a taxpayer?
Just a reminder, if we could talk and turn the mics on when we ask questions.
Oh, okay. Should I turn it off now?
Through the assembly to, through the mayor to Assemblymember McKee, that is 50 cents on $100,000, 50 cents per 100,000.
Yeah. I must say, I've taken the concealed carry course and all that sort of thing, and when you talk about $75,000, what it's worth, a life is priceless. And so to me, obviously, since you're getting such a bargain on it, that the thing that I learned in taking that class, it has made me calmer and feel more safe. I feel more prepared. And they're way out in the sticks, some of these folks, and I think for that's a real bargain as far as I'm concerned for the money spent, so I will support it.
Mr. Bernier,
Assemblyperson Bernier, and then I'll come to you. Go ahead.
I just believe that our borough's residents' safety is the most important thing. That's all I got.
Assembly.
question, Mr. Bernier. I think anytime we're doing something new, it's always nice to start small. How would you feel if we started with $50,000, see what it does, and then next year we evaluate to see if we need to expand it if it works real well. instead of starting with $75,000 at $50,000.
That'd be 125,000, right?
I don't know if we were being sarcastic. English is my second language, so I guess if we started at the, I'm asking you if that would be a good start, and then we report on it. We have people that have taken it, have provided decent amount of positive feedback. Then, you know, we could bump it up or see if we continue to be at the same amount, or just eliminate it depending how well it goes. That's where I would like to see it. But obviously I would need 3 more people supporting me in that.
Okay, Deputy Marriott, and then
The cost, I imagine the cost of one of these classes would be around $250, $300 a piece. So divided by 75 grand, you're only talking 250 to 300 residents the entire next year. So you reduce it down to 50 grand, you're talking 160 or, 200. I don't know, it just depended. I think where Ron's at is, if anything, it's a little bit light, but I'm gonna vote to leave it right where Ron's got it, so thanks.
Assemblyperson Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I got a couple questions. First, to the attorney. Hey, Nick, is there any liability to the borough for having a grant like this?
No, as Assemblymember Bernier said, we don't, what you're doing tonight is you're setting the money aside. It'll be up to administration to come up with a program, talk to who's interested, figure out, dole out the money, and there'll be a grant agreement. And the grant agreement will be provide education or, whether it's safety training, provide gun safety and usage education, and we'll help you pay for it, for either free or reduced costs for whatever. We'll talk to management, we'll talk with the sponsor, we'll figure it out. But no, just because we're giving someone a grant program to help them do something doesn't mean we're liable for their actions.
Should they get injured, or should they injure somebody else?
And all of our grant agreements have defense and indemnification in it.
Okay. Second question is for the manager. So, Manager Brown, what department would administer this grant, and how would you develop the program? I mean, what guidelines do you envision using to set up this program?
So through the mayor to Mr. Gamble, finance would be cutting the grant agreement. We have many grant agreements that we don't have staff to go out. We require basic grant reporting, and that's really part of our grants coordinator's job. So it's not like it would be signed to DES because it's public safety related. It would be a grant agreement, a pass-through. We do this type of thing all the time where we don't have staff with like technical expertise to oversee grants. So it would just be a normal pass-through grant, like actually a number of other pass-through grants that exist in the capital budget today.
Okay, so how would you define what could and could not, what the money could and could not be used for? I mean, what would you model it like after the state hunter safety program or something similar?
So through the mayor, I'm going to go back to what the attorney said because I think he said it well. We would sit down as a group, talk about it, engage with the amendment sponsor, and come up with a program. Okay. This amendment was developed this week. So we haven't studied this and had a discussion as staff about how we would go about doing it. At this point, I think Nick said it well, is this sets the money aside and allows us to move forward with that. How we administer that is to be determined.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Assemblyperson Hale.
Yeah, just kind of, thank you, Madam Mayor, through the mayor to the manager, just kind of following up on Assemblymember Gamble's questions. Would this be, do you envision this as being a grant that would go to a company, or is this something that an individual would apply for and then spend that money at the company of their choice, or how do you kind of envision that situation?
Through the mayor to Mr. Hale, similar to my last answer, but I think we would probably come up with some competitive grant criteria, put it out there for people to solicit, figure out how we divvy that out, and let them execute it. I mean, again, we do this, it's not uncommon. I mean, like with the opioid settlement money, I'll use that because we're going through that exact thing right now. I don't have folks on staff that know things about how to administer opioid education and outreach and treatment and recovery. right? So we come up with some criteria, we put it out, we award the grants, and we let the experts weigh in, and I don't see this being much different than that. Now, as far as how it gets divvied out and spread out across the borough, that would be a consideration that we would look at when we would make the awards.
Right, and when you say competitive grant agreement and people, you're talking about companies, not individuals, as far as the training companies, or competitive amongst individuals to get their $250 or whatever it comes out to be.
So through the mayor to Mr. Hale, I would say, again, to be determined. If the assembly would like us to bring the program back to the assembly for approval before we put it out, I have no problem doing that. But we just need some time to work through that. At this point, this is, do you want to resource this? And that's the challenge, right? Because we get the amendment today. I didn't convene staff and try to figure out how we would administer it. But I'm happy coming back, providing a report to the assembly and having you approve how we move forward with that if that's the body's desire.
Assemblyperson Benir?
So how I came up with this in the first place, I went to a community council meeting up at Trappers Creek when the 2 women were murdered last year, when the commissioner of the troopers and all the bigwigs and everybody went up there in Trappers Creek. And basically, they wanted trooper response up there, quicker response, a trooper stationed up there. The troopers went up there and said, hey, right now we've got 70 positions that are paid for that we cannot fill. Okay, we only have 5 to 7 troopers in the valley, in the whole valley, at one given time. Okay, there's no way we can actually do this. Okay, we'd like to. Right now, we're the only one that's really applying for the jobs are out-of-staters coming up to become troopers. Okay, so at the end with the closing comments and stuff, I suggested that the troopers maybe go check out the churches and get into the high schools and stuff like that. And then I told the community of Trappers Creek, you guys need to band together, be some type of militia. You guys are the first line of defense. And this is part of my answer for them.
Assemblyperson Nowers?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I always get a little persnickety when we say, oh, it's only 50 cents, because 75,000 is 75,000. The entire budget is made up of 75,000 and 75,000 and 75,000. Suddenly you're talking about 150 million. You're talking about real money. So I guess a question to, well, it's just clear staff is going to have to put a lot of thought into this. And then, I don't know how much staff time we have to spare to create a new program and then administer the grants. So say we have 5 entities that we send it to, and then we have to get reports from them, and somebody has to evaluate all the applications. And to Assemblyman Rafano's point earlier, like, let's just take the 75,000 and give it to the state and say, bolster your hunter safety program, because that's free right now too. Like, could we take 75,000 and give it to
I did not say that, for the record.
Well, no, right. But your point was, how do we use the money efficiently? Like 75, we're going to spend 10,000?
Hunter safety's great.
Let Assemblyperson Nowers continue.
And for the record, I've taken the hunter safety class, so I know what you're talking about. I'm not, in no way am I critiquing people having firearm training. I'm just saying there's other entities that do this, and it's a more efficient use of our dollars if we want to, like, give 75,000 to bolster existing programs. So I'd rather see this funding go do some research and do directly to programs that are free to people, and just send the 75,000 out there instead of spend staff time creating a program and having to solicit applications and process them. So again, it comes back to me for the, our most effective, important things. And if we didn't fund this, 75,000 for vehicle cleanup, how many vehicles would that be? But that's where I'm coming from, is let's not add to an already full plate on staff and use them efficiently, and maybe find a way to do this just giving money directly to somebody who's already doing this work.
Deputy Mayor Yount, and then
This is to give the money to somebody already doing the work. That's what a grant is. Manager Brown, what staff do you anticipate? Do you think this is gonna be a big lift for your team? And what department do you think would oversee this?
I'll answer it and then because I want to hear if Cheyenne feels differently about it since we're kind of doing this on the fly, but through the mayor, I think it would go to finance. I think finance would do a competitive grant process, just like Pam Graham's been involved in doing the opioid. Now, the deputy managers help out with that, and there's been others part of the process, but I see it looking something like that. And I don't see it, we're not going to add staff to administer this. Like, when we pass the grants through, we tell people what's expected, and then we have them report back. We're not going to go out and do inspections and things like that. We don't do that elsewhere.
And then the hunter safety class is great, but I can tell you, as someone that's taken it, and my kids have taken it, it was nowhere even comparable, not even a drop in the bucket compared to an 8-hour day with Alaska Tactical or any of these guys that do actual handgun training. So I think this is a great amendment, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. I support it.
Assemblyperson Faloff, did you have comments, sir?
I fully support the amendment. I would like, this might be first time, Ms. Nowers will be supporting me if I cut it down, the commitment to $50,000, and I will support it. So I make secondary amendment to have this at $50,000. I don't think we hired any staff to junk removal program. There's going to be similar model where those who are already performing those classes will administer those classes. It's no liability to us, and maybe they put a flyer that, hey, there's available grant, apply if you qualify, whatever, and the people will get that training. I do think it's money will be well spent, but I would like to offer it to be $50,000 commitment.
Okay, so there's amendment on the floor now to change the 75,000 to 50,000, so the discussion now will be on that amendment. Deputy Mayor, I'm sorry, you still have your light on, sir, okay, all right.
Question for Cheyenne. Do you know where we're at with right now with the proposed fund balance?
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Yunt, with this amendment, we are at $469,759.
If this were to pass.
If this were passed.
Is that with the 50,000, that's with the 50,000?
That is without this amendment.
Oh, without the amendment, okay, thank you. Yeah,
I can't support this secondary amendment. I cannot. When you talk about creating a program, it's like the program we created last year for the, getting the cars picked up. We're in year 2 of it now, right? We started with, it takes time to roll it out. We're not talking about a lot of people here, but one person can make a huge difference, especially in one of these rural communities. And I can tell you, I think this is going to be the most important training we do out there, far superior to picking up some junk cars that have been sitting there for 10 years. So this is, in my opinion, the most valuable money this borough will spend this year as far as any sort of education or training inside this community, other than our students that the school district handles. But from our end, I'm not going to support any reductions. I'm sitting here doing some math on a potential increase, so I'll just stop for now.
okay, Assemblyperson Hale.
Yeah, just for clarification, am I mistaken, or in past years, have we normally left $500,000 in the fund balance? Is that the target that we usually shoot for?
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Hale, yes, that's
So we're
approximately where you,
we're already below that.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, There is Assemblyperson Gamble, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I'm okay with the $75,000 also. I just want to reiterate that before this program gets put into place, I'd like for it to come back in front of the Assembly so we can take a look at it. Thank you.
So I think there is an objection to the secondary amendment, so secondary amendment. will
I'll
be-
actually withdraw my amendment then.
Okay.
Is there any objection to withdrawing?
Is there
the
any objection? No? Okay, all righty. So now we're back to amendment number 12. Everybody, is there objection?
Yeah, so normally at the end of the year, or at the very end of this budget process, we make an amendment to reduce the fund balance to $500,000, and then reduce the mill rate in accordance to that, because there's usually a little bit of fund balance left over. And we are already below that number, which is our general guide, safe number of having in reserve in the fund balance. So I guess I am going to have to oppose this amendment because we're already below our $500,000. It's not that it's not a good program, but we're already below our $500,000.
Okay, yes. Assembly for Fauna. Okay, all right, so Deputy Mayor.
Question for the clerk. I remember some pretty big amendments last week. Is it too bad? Is it too late to reconsider and maybe reduce? Reduce some of last week's amendments so that we can fund this one here?
To Assemblymember Yunt, the way we set up the budget meetings, it's one big session. So no, you are not past your time to reconsider any of the previous amendments.
I'm gonna support the 75 grand.
Okay, so we do. Okay, Assemblyperson McKee?
Yeah, I just gotta say, and it's an expansion on what I said before, when you've got like a mass shooting or something like that, or a school shooting, whatever it is, somebody's in a neighborhood shooting, and you got one guy or one woman who knows what they're doing, they can save lots and lots of lives. That 75,000 is nothing compared to that. So that's an emotional appeal to it, but that's the way it is.
Okay, further discussion? Okay, there is objection, I understand.
If I can get the members to go ahead and vote on the primary amendment. Madam Mayor, it passed with Assemblymember Hale and Nowers opposed.
Okay, so amendment number 12 has passed. Okay, next item is this amendment number 13, Assemblyperson McKee.
I'd like to move amendment number, what number is this, 12? I'd like to move amendment number 13.
It's the last blue sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so you need to say I move to
I'm sorry,
amend
okay,
as
I
follows.
thought I just did
Yeah.
the number, okay. I'd like to move amendment number 13, area-wide fund, non-departmental, page 60, and education fund, pages 216 and 217. I speak to that?
And keep reading.
Keep
Oh,
reading.
I'm sorry, I don't do this very often. Okay. I move to amend as follows and make any other conforming changes to the budget. The area-wide fund, non-departmental education operating 445.220 by decreasing the appropriation by the amount of $1,092,697, and the education fund, non-departmental, by decreasing both transfers from other funds, area-wide 367.110, and education operating 406.100 by $1,092,697.
Okay, would you like to speak to it?
I would, and it's an issue about which I'm very passionate, because I just spent 26 years in that milieu. The first thing I'd like to do is, I think Dr. Trainee and Katie Gardner, they're amazing. They work really hard. So I'm just gonna start out by saying, you really do. But it is not making a difference at a fast enough pace we have to stop the madness. Every year we do the same thing. We throw money at it, we go away, and then we think, okay, we took care of that, and then we didn't. We find out the next year, that it's still a problem. We say, okay, well, the state has a problem. They do. They're paralyzed. We're barely moving. That's not good enough. And when and I believe that when we throw money at something that's an easy solution, nobody's required to really think and make a difference about anything. And they say that necessity is the mother of invention. And when I look at where some of these cuts are happening, it really disturbs me, because according to the newspaper article I read, the district is planning to cut like 38 instructors and, what's that other thing? 38 instructors and 35 assistants. That's 73% of the cuts that the district is going to make. And it's all coming out of that one absolutely necessary component of education, which is teachers. It's a three-legged stool. It's teachers, kids, and parents. That's really what education is. Everybody else is support staff. I don't care whether you're talking about custodians or the lunch lady or the administration. That's support staff. The money has to get to the kids in the classrooms. Teachers don't make a lot of money. People like to throw out the red herring of the union. The union has no teeth. The fact that their membership gets such a pittance as for the important job that they do bothers me terribly, and always has. Not personally, I don't care. I'm not even in that milieu anymore. But you can't take the money off of that three-legged stool, because if you do that, then the stool falls down. So I don't know what, it's not really even important to me at this moment. I don't know what administrative positions have actually been cut. I know there's a reduction in departmental budgets, but I don't know if that equates to laying off people. And you've got to get people's attention. I've got an analogy, and it's a little vulgar maybe, but I'm gonna give it anyway. It's my dog doo-doo analogy. Can I do that? I can do it, because I'll use the word dog doo-doo. Okay, so you have a dog, he poops in the corner. And you've got a lot of ways you can approach it. You say, Jim, get right over there, clean that up, fix that up, make it like it never happened, and I have now fixed the problem. Or I can say, let me just leave it there, your neighbors aren't gonna come visit you, it's really kind of unpleasant. Or you could throw a bunch of newspapers over, pretty soon it dries up, people can't smell it, can't see it, people think you can even decorate it with a potted plant, I guess. And it's okay, because nobody sees it anymore. But guess what? He's gonna do it again, and the next time, you're gonna throw more money at it, which is, guess what, newspapers. So by the time that you finish this thing years later, you still got the same problem. Education is not dog doo-doo, but the solutions that we're doing are dog doo-doo. It's still there. The problem is still there, you just can't see it, smell it, or whatever. So, necessity being the mother of invention, we have got to force this district, this community, this state to come up with some more creative solutions. And I realize that I, as an assembly member, I can't tell people what to do. All we do is do the pass-through money. I mean, that's just basically what we do. But there are so many other ways to approach this, and until we take the gloves off and we are willing to take the hit, it's not going to change. Such a thing as social promotion. If the kid doesn't make it this year, he'll try it next year. He doesn't make it next year, he can go. Do you know that I've actually had students who do not do one assignment? They have a 0. They come in 6th grade at the front door, they go out the back door at the end of the year with 0, and one kid I talked to last year, well, I'll do better when I get to high school. No, you won't. You've already got habits established. So social promotion is absurd. If you can't swim in the deep end of the shallow end of the pool, you can't swim in the deep end. If you can't do work in 6th grade, you can't do it in 8th grade. So somehow or another, we've got to have the guts to make the changes that really will fix this thing. Because otherwise, people like Katie Gardner and Randy Trini, they're working their fannies off trying to come up with creative programs, but you can't until you fix the problem at the source. It's not gonna go away. Discipline is horrible in the schools. You tell a kid to do something, he basically flips you off because there's no follow through. And even schools where it is well done, it is not well done enough. I tell you to do something, you do it, dude. Work turn in. Maybe, maybe not. And grade inflation goes right along with that. Oh, you didn't turn any work, we're gonna give him a C. No. So sports, you can't, this is insane. You have a kid, let's say wrestling, because I'm really fond of wrestlers. You got a kid who 5 days a week spends his time after school or her time after school, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and they practice. But guess what? If they don't have the proper grades, they can't go to the tournament. Well, you know what? The reason that they don't have the proper grade is because they're spending all of that time practicing to get to the tournament. So, but there has to be a thing that says we are a student athlete. The word student is first, athlete comes second. We don't do that. Oh, we want to be known as the wrestling school or the football school or whatever. No, we want to be known as the school that actually does what we're supposed to do. I'll try to shorten this up, but I'm so passionate about this. Accountability. You don't turn in your work? That sucks. I used to keep kids at lunch period. One time I didn't have a lunch hour for 22 years. I had 44 kids in my classroom. Guess what? My work turn-in was 98%. But the parents said, they had to have their social time, they got to have their lunch time. The principal would say, well, parents are going to complain. So those things go away, and they are the things that work. I've never seen kids get it together quicker than if somebody says, hey, dude, you're not going to wrestle, play soccer, fill in the blank there. They will do it. Kids will always rise to the occasion if you let them. Computers. Talked to many, many kids over the years. Would you rather do your tests and your work with computers or pencil and paper? So huge majority say pencil and paper. Geez, that's kind of old school. Why do you think that? Because it gives us time to think about what we're doing. Otherwise, you hit a button, it's gone. Who cares? Spent a lot of money in this district on computers. I think it has been to their detriment and also created a lot of discipline problems in the classroom because some kid's back there playing Scooby-Doo when he's supposed to be on his computer, taking care of business, taking care of his classes. Cell phones. France outlawed the use of they can't bring cell phones to school, and they noticed, I'd love to give you figures, but I can't. Then there's another thing called Yonder. It's a magnetized pouch that the kid comes and checks in, puts their cell phone in there. At the end of the day, it is magnetically unsealed. And then people will say, but I have to get in touch with my kid. For like 100 years, they could call the front office, and that message gets to you right away. And if it doesn't, you sue the school and everybody they're connected with. But the fact is, it does. But it takes, kids got that cell phone in their pocket. They can feel it vibrate. They know their friends are on it. Check. And it creates tremendous discipline problems. So what do we do about this? We have to come up with the creative solutions that are difficult. I'm not a politician. When I ran for borough, the Republican Party asked me, well, what are your political aspirations? And I said, I don't have any, and I don't. Something like this could cost me, because people put their hand over their heart and say, well, it's for the children, so of course you're going to give them money. That's not how you do it. You got to stop that stuff because it's not producing the results we need. We see that in charter schools, we're #1 in the U.S., for crying out loud. What are we doing differently? That model needs to be applied to the public school, I know they're public schools, whatever we call it, whatever the difference is. We need to look more at how they're doing that. So I don't want to, take your whole evening on doing this, but I might have one or two more things to say. The idea that if I were investing in a stock market, and the name of the stock market was the Matanuska-Susitna School District, I wouldn't invest in it. I'd do it 1 year. I'd try to throw some money in there. If it didn't work, next year I'm going somewhere else. So please understand, having been there, the teachers work their fannies off. Their hearts, you give your personal life, your social life, it goes to your work because it is for the kids. But what made me stop was I had no more to give, and it made no difference. So if we are serious, I wish there was a whole room full of people out here. If we are serious about this, if we care about our kids, we cannot continue to cheat them out of their future. And that's what happens when we don't apply the hard solutions. And the easy solution is money, just deal it out. The hard solution is sitting down, finding out what it is, fixing it, and then enforcing it. And I urge you to support this amendment because we got to get somebody's attention. Otherwise, same old, year after year. And again, I will end this by saying that I think that there are people in our school district who do amazing things. But I would also say I think you can do it with fewer people. If you can cut 73 out of 100 people out of the instruction in the classroom, maybe we need to take a look at some of the associate superintendents and the this and that and the other thing, and multiple principals and assistant principals. I mean, look at that. Somebody's not going to like you when you do that. Too bad. So I hope that you will at least give this thought and understand where it comes from. It comes from necessity, absolute necessity.
Assemblyperson Hale and then Assemblyperson Benier.
Yeah, thank you. Question through the mayor to whoever can answer this. How much did the school board ask us for this year? What was their request?
To Assemblymember Hale through the mayor, the school board asked us for $75,031,853. That was a 3% increase over the previous year.
And what was in the budget prior to this amendment for that, for the school district?
We put their request in the budget because they only asked for a 3% increase.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so my point is, I guess, is we have a really good school board, a conservative school board who does everything they can with the smallest amount of money that they could possibly ask us for, and I think we support them. I think we give them what they ask for.
Okay, Assemblyperson Bonnier?
I'd like to offer a friendly amendment to change the amount to 1.2 million. Even.
Okay, go ahead and speak to it, sir. You want to speak to your amendment?
It looks cleaner.
Okay, so the amendment to change the figure to 1.2 is now available for discussion. Is there objection to, okay, we do have objection to changing the amount to 1.2, so Madam Clerk?
The members in the room could go ahead and vote. Madam Mayor, it failed with Assemblymember Fanoff, Bernier, and McKee in support.
Okay, so now we're back to the main portion of amendment number 13. Discussion? Is there objection? Deputy Mayor Yount, go ahead.
Oh, this is a tough one. So a couple times in my 4 years here, we've been presented with the opportunity to decrease what we give to the Matsu School District, and I have never supported any of those decreases. I do think they do a great job. We've seen a lot of amazing updates from the last superintendent report here on, I believe that was Monday. I spoke to a few of them Tuesday evening. Our school district stands out as substantially better than the other school districts in the state, and even does very well when compared to other parts of the United States. I understand the frustration this year for property taxpayers, and you know, every year somewhere between 68 and say 75. 1 year was actually, I think, 83% since I was here of our money that we collect from property taxpayers actually goes to the district. And so, you know, call it 3/4 of our money every year goes to them or close to that. I think we're getting good results from them. I think they've improved drastically as shown especially since 2018-19. There's been some huge improvement. If we hadn't have just committed a little over $2 million, and I can't remember the exact amount, but we're going to do a couple $1 million worth of capital improvements for the district, and we're going to start taking over, you know, the major maintenance issues. If we hadn't have just committed that in this year's budget, the $2+ million for those boilers, there's no way I could support this, right? I think beings that we did just commit a little over $2 million for that. I think it was 2 or 2.4 million. Manager Brown could probably remember off the top of his head, but
Through the mayor to the assembly, $2,095,000.
thank you, sir. So, you know, this is approximately half of that, and so I could support this. I didn't support the increase. I just got to say, I think they're doing a great job. There is room for improvement. I also got to say, I don't think there should be as many associate superintendents or vice principals as there are. I noticed some schools don't have athletic directors anymore. Now they're a VP. So but it's not my job to micromanage that organization. And so I didn't run for school board. I ran for assembly. So this is a tough one, but I'm going to support the original one only based on because we just give them a little over $2 million for capital improvements, but, yeah, thanks.
Further discussion, Assemblyperson Gamble, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So like Assemblymember Yunt just told us, the money that the assembly provided that was additional was for capital projects. My wife is an educator, has been for over 33 years. And in my opinion, she works at one of the most difficult elementary schools in the valley to work at. So I get to hear about all the problems that Assemblymember McKee was talking about. But I also believe in the law of unintended consequences, and so I still don't quite understand what taking this $1,092,697 away from the school district will actually accomplish. In fact, it may, it's going to have to come out of the school district somehow, and where would that take place? I mean, who would get axed? How many people, what positions, what programs, what would go away when this money is taken away? Thank you.
And I'd like to speak to that if I.
Okay, so, okay.
Quickly, I
Go
just
ahead.
wanted to clarify that by decreasing this amount, Mr. Gamble, instead of increasing what the previous year by 3%, we're increasing by 1.5%. So we're still increasing to the previous thing. Plus, we got the $2,095,000 towards the capital. So we're still increasing. We're just not increasing as much, and that's why I see this be a good thing.
Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead.
When you clean a house, you gotta clean where it's most important. You don't clean, and in this case, we're cleaning house with the teachers. We're cleaning house right in the classroom. 73% of those 100 cuts is basically in the classroom. I don't know if do I get to talk to Ms. Gardner? Or is that, no? Do I?
You want to ask?
Yeah,
Katie?
I want to know what administrative cuts over at the head shed, to which it is affectionately referred.
Katie, do you mind?
And I mean actual positions, not just cutting departmental budgets.
Good evening, Assembly. For the record, Katie Gardner, Deputy Superintendent for Business and Operations for the Mat-Su School District. Through the mayor to Assemblymember McKee, the school district in its board-approved FY25 budget does not have any reductions to positions of school principals, assistant principals, or executive level.
That to me says it all right there. You can't cut that leg of the stool because it falls flat. Why? I guess maybe this is why I wanted to do this, to bring it to people's attention and say, is there someplace else we can look rather than increasing class sizes? My class sizes were outrageous at 227 kids a day. Some people have 187 kids. They're overdone as it is, and if you can't reach them, you can't teach them. You can't reach them when there's too many kids for you to even talk to. If you can't get their heart, you don't get their head. So the whole idea is, look somewhere else. That's the necessity thing. It is necessary to look somewhere else to decrease this, to say, what else could we do? So this is a fall on your sword thing for me. I've been there.
Assemblyperson McKee, I was just talking to the clerk, because she is, a hired person, and what the school board decides, she has to implement. And so, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but she isn't the one that makes the decision. So I think the questions that you're asking her, as far as I'm concerned, would be in our joint meeting with the school board. Because if they give her $5, she's gonna spend $5. And if you say to her, well, why don't you reduce it to $4.50? She doesn't have the right to reduce that to $4.50.
And maybe I don't understand the structure, but are you saying that the school district, no, that the school board says, these are the positions, excuse me, are they down at that nuts and bolts level, or do they say, we're gonna give you $5, spend it the way that it needs to be spent?
I do not know what they do.
don't
We
either.
here at the budget, at the borough get a budget, and in there, Mike has said, the finance department's gonna have X number of people, and we, we accept that budget, or we ask him to reduce it or something. So what exactly goes on with the school board and the administration, I have not been a part of, so I don't know. But I don't think we can, as the other elected body, take and put the other administration on the hot seat regarding decisions that their bosses made.
And I understand that, but it is, for me, it is time. My initial thing was stop the madness. It has to start somewhere. Somebody needs to start looking. We cannot keep doing this thing over and over. We do have the single power that the Assembly has is to how much money we give. And I'm
Right,
saying.
that's right.
That's what
Right.
I'm putting on the brakes here. You guys fix it ever how you can. I don't care. But I'm telling you, as a teacher, and as a parent and a taxpayer, these are the things that will work. Constantly handing out money obviously doesn't work. And I won't belabor it, but it's sure something that's on my heart.
I know it is. Thank you. Assemblyperson Hale.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for your comments, Madam Mayor. I was gonna go along in that same vein a little bit. The school
Thanks,
board,
Katie.
the school board does absolutely set the budget. They have a packet just like this. They get right down to the nuts and bolts like we do about whether we're gonna fund a community coordinator position. So it is their decision, and the request that they make of us is based on their best, and they are also elected officials. The request that they send to us is based on their best effort at setting their budget according to the needs and the available resources for the school district. And I really don't think that making cuts blindly in the dark is going to achieve the types of things that you're looking to achieve with this cut, so.
So I do have to ask the question, though. Yeah, they give them the budget, but surely they're not just saying, you have to have this position, and they're gonna sit here and do, the school district runs its shop. So I don't quite accept that.
Okay. Assemblyperson Hours.
Thank you. Yeah, there are definitely things I would love to improve in the school district. I do think our opportunity to do that is when we meet with the school board and when we have our joint meetings, if we, to get into those kind of specifics that you're saying. Back to the amendment at hand, looking at budgets in general, my philosophy is to look at stability. People can't handle 10% increases. I see a 3% increase, and I think that's a reasonable increase, and my home budget went up 3%. So I like to see stability over time. I think 3% is a reasonable amount. I don't want the district to come back next year and say, now we need 6% because, you made it tough for us last year. And I also would just say, I think there's a value in stability to both bodies in knowing what your budget will be roughly, and for the school district to count on. I mean, we can only fund a year in advance. We can't encumber any future assemblies, but kind of sticking with a reasonable amount allows administrators, allows teachers, allows the borough to plan ahead and know that we're not going to go from one extreme to another year to year. So when I saw this budget for 3%, and that was less than had been asked in previous years, I really just look at the percentage, and I think 3% is a reasonable amount. And I think some of the things you're talking about, I think maybe we can talk after the meeting. I think there's ways we could have that conversation with the school board and express our opinion on some of those. But ultimately, it's up to the school board to make those elected officials to make those kind of decisions you're talking about.
And that's true, but when we give them, when we take a tremendous burden off them like we did with the boilers and such, God bless Ole Larson, then somehow or another, there's got to be, talk about balance. If you give them a bunch of money, then they should need less money. Just saying. I'll stop because I don't want to take everybody's holy cake.
Assemblyperson Gamble, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd just like to say that inflation this past year was more than 3%, so they're actually taking a budget cut, in my opinion. Second of all, we've got 3 assembly members that go to school board committee meetings, and we have joint assembly school board meetings, and so if we want to send a message to the school board and to the administration, I would think that that would be a much better way than some arbitrary $1 million cut to their budget. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Yant?
Yeah, I really understand Ms. McKee's frustration. I think anytime you see a proposed budget that starts talking about cutting teachers, and then there's not one single other position, in upper management, that sends a message to teachers that they're not valued as much. When you see through COVID, big raises and different, I'm just gonna stop. I understand your frustration, I really do. And I can tell you, I'm friends with a lot of teachers, and they feel the frustration. I will also say, we have a lot of new school board members that just got there in the last 2 years. They're just getting their feet wet, and I think there's gonna be a lot of changes in the future. We come up here, we debate lots and lots and lots of amendments, right? We do every year. It's an awesome process. I don't know how many we'll do this year, 25 total. I haven't seen a single amendment since I got elected from any school board member in the last 3 budget cycles. I don't think I've seen one, and I have a feeling that's gonna change soon. Like I said earlier, we're putting in a couple $1 million to help with boilers, so we're definitely doing our part over there. But I think what we've done is we've sent a message tonight that there is some frustration, right, being felt by the teachers, and there is, right? And I think there's some frustration as parents when you see, well, they might cut X amount of teachers, but they're not gonna cut anybody that is in the office. Does that make sense, right? That's frustrating to me as a parent, very frustrating. But again, we're not on the school board. It's not the seats we ran for, and so, this is a tough one. Like I said, I'm glad that we're gonna start participating in the major maintenance issues. We do, after all, own the structures, and so, I don't know where I'm at with this one earlier. I thought I knew where I was at with it earlier, but I'm afraid that what I don't want to do is micromanage our school board, because I think they're brilliant, I think they're amazing, and I think we have some people there now that have only been there a year or two, or one of them a few months, that are going to make some major changes in the future. So I want to give them an opportunity to do that, and I will talk to a few of them, as a parent, or talk to a few of them in our meetings when we meet with them once a month or whatever about doing just that. So I appreciate all that you brought to the table tonight. I think you're definitely getting some of that frustration out there, and it needed to be aired, so thank you.
Mike, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I will try to carefully wade into this. So through the mayor, because I want to be careful. I don't want to be a part of the assembly's debate. That is not my role here. I want to give you a little bit of background and rationale, and it puts people like Katie and I in a pretty tough spot when we have elected officials that make decisions, and our job's to back that play, right? I want to explain a little bit of the rationale. The reason we put 3% in the proposed budget was the school board's ask. If you recall, up to the sunsetted ordinance, where it was set at 6.3, which was 60% of the tax cap at that time. That number, if that number were in the budget today, that would be over $88 million. And it would be well over 3/4 or probably over 3/4 of that total number. When we let that sunset, we had to come up with a new construct to arrive at a number to put in the proposed budget. And I guess what I'm trying to do, I'm a process guy, so understand I'm not criticizing anybody's feelings about who's doing what in the school district. The budget process for the school district started months ago. It's challenging to have a late amendment at this stage where you have 2 elected bodies working in concert, right? The state does this, and it frustrates me to no end, so I'm like, why would I accept that at the local level? Because we all complain about it and gripe about it. I don't want to replicate that same challenge. I think this discussion should happen in March, in February. and it's an important discussion, but that's when it needs to happen, because the school board should have the ability to pass a budget with some level of predictability. And a last-minute amendment is going to throw that process off when we're in mid-May. It's the same thing the state's done to us in the past, and it sent the borough into a tailspin. That is not helpful, and it is not good process, in my opinion. So I'm not speaking for or against the amendment. I'm just kind of trying to encourage good process at the local level, because that's what helps us maintain good working relationships with the school board, which is really, really important. And we have already made adjustments to, I was never a supporter of the 6.3. I thought that was not a great ordinance, and I'll just say it. I'm glad that it's sunset. But it now requires a conversation to occur between administrations, which goes to the school board for approval and then to the assembly. That is a process that needs time to occur. That time has passed, to be frank. So I just want you to think about that as we're at the second, budget deliberations after 3 public hearings, after the school board's been through an iteration of passing a budget, as you consider what that looks like. Now, as far as the $2.1 million or the $2 million, $2,095,000, I want to be clear. Part of the reason we put that in the capital budget is we're trying to capture retiring education debt service, right? So a portion of that $2.1 million is money it's already in our budget and we're paying out. It's going to retire as debt tapers off. We're trying to reinvest that in schools to reduce our need to take on future debt service obligations, right? So it's not, I don't think it's exactly fair to say it's a one-for-one. Like, oh, we're putting $2.1 million in capital. That is a correct statement, but $1.6 million of that-ish is already being paid out this current fiscal year for education debt service. We're trying to flip the model and reinvest it in maintenance. And so we don't have another $214 million bond package in the future. So, but that's going to require, and I talked about this during the budget presentation, that's going to require us to pay for it as we go. That is the harder decision to make. It's much easier to just kick that can down the road, and then somebody that's in this job when it's not me will deal with the problem if I don't deal with it now. It's a harder decision to make to tax, collect, and do it now. But I would argue, if you look down the road a bit, they have a slightly different approach. And you see it every year when they roll out propositions. We don't do that. But that's what could happen if we don't forward fund some of this stuff. So I just want you to consider that when you're looking at that total outcome, because it can be a little bit misleading if you just take 2.1 million and add it to 2 million and go, well, we're giving them that amount more. Some of that's already being spent in education debt service today. What we're trying to do is not let that whittle away, stack up, and throw a big bond back before the voters. I hope that's helpful. Again, I'm not trying to wade into the Assembly's debate. I respect your lane, but I want to provide that information because, frankly, I think it is a little unfair to put Katie in that position, and the school board isn't here to speak to that, and that conversation should have occurred in March. And that's just my take on process. I'll stop.
Assemblyperson Benier, you got your light on and you wanted to speak before. You still want to speak?
I'd like to call the question.
Okay. So is there objection to calling the question? Yes, there is. Okay. So they
I
will
can get
need
the
to-
members in the room to vote on calling the question to stop debate.
And remember, it's more than a majority, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, it failed with Assemblymember Bernier, Hale, Gamble, and Yunt in support. It requires
Okay.
5 votes.
Okay. So let's see, Assemblyperson Hale, I think you're the next person on the list.
I was attempting to call the question, so I will,
Deputy Mayor Yount.
I just got a quick question, and it was something, if we called I voted to call the question because I just asked Katie later if needed, but since we're still here, is your guys' budget fully adopted, or is there still time for your elected members to make adjustments?
Through the mayor to Member Yunt, we bring back before the board an item to adopt later in the year once we have firm information regarding the appropriation from the Assembly as well as from the state legislature. For us, both are unknown right now. So there is still time for adjustments to be made, though I would like to reiterate what the manager said, that if the Assembly wants to hear from the board, it's tough tonight. I did not ask them to be there. We did not set up a process where they would be able to answer questions tonight. So I apologize for that. I think we can work on that in the future if things aren't known during that joint meeting in March when we do that initial presentation.
No, I definitely don't want to hear from them. I fully trust that body. I was just wondering if there was still time for them to make adjustments. And it makes sense that you guys do not make your formal one until later, because you got to wait until you see what you get here, and then you got to wait for the state. So that makes sense. I was just curious. I definitely don't need to hear from any of them. I fully trust them. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
So,
Assemblyperson Fauna, go ahead.
so Manager Brown, I guess, you said, they asked for 3%. That's the one that came. If they would have asked for 5%, we would have give 5, and then my question, I'm gonna just speak a little bit on the thing. So just because they're asked, I have your proposed thing, and there's a lot of departments that are asked, like community, 2.6 million, they're only getting 230. I could go the pages, there's the other ones, technology, asked 930, they got 685 or whatever it is. So just because you ask, that's good, but doesn't mean that we're still willing to give more. I'm saying it'd be a good conversation. Then today, when I think Mr. Yount was telling, like, they passed or they're in process of passing the budget, and there was 0 amendments made to reflect our concern, that's a little bit questioning. And then I think Ms. McKee said there was so many positions that was cut, but it's not administrative side. That's also questioning. So I think this will get a real good debate, a good conversation, so that when we do have next school board assembly meeting, we're gonna say, hey, we're giving 75 or over 75% of our full budget to the schools, and then we understand that, it's not how we would like it to see. I think that will really have that very good debate between the two bodies, and then perhaps they need to give their arguments and we need to do our job. I think it'd be a great thing, and I think something good will come out of it. It's an uncomfortable subject. It's always cutting is always not the best thing, but I really hope, Mr. Yan, you will support this, and ultimately we'll have a good discussion with them to focus more on the classroom versus the administrative side. That's why I would support this.
And Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead.
Do we know what the state is gonna do? Because for a while it said, "Hey, we're not moving an inch, we're not giving you anything," kind of thing, but what does that look like? Not that it affects how what I'm doing here, but I would like to know.
Through the chair to Member McKee, no, we do not yet have information from the state legislature. They have not finalized the operating budget, so we do not know.
Do you have a clue? Do you have a hint? Is there a rumor? Because I've sure heard a lot of them. And what I've heard is that they're gonna be more forthcoming than they were.
Through the chair, what I can tell you is that the governor had previously indicated support for additional funding for education.
And somebody was talking about instead of 340, it's 680, and so things are heading to me, as far as I could see, in the direction that the school district would like. So therefore, given that, this is not as much of a hamstring as it would appear. And then again, you compare that with moving it out of the classroom. Geez Louise, it looks like it doesn't look like a difficult
Through the
task.
mayor to Member McKee, the school district's budget assumes $340 in addition to what is in the statutory-based student allocation. And so if there are funds that are available to the school district, either from the assembly or from the state legislature, then there will be a restoration of items that were previously eliminated. But the item proposed tonight would require additional reductions based on what was proposed. And the state legislature, correct, has a lion's share of the revenue that we receive. So up or down, yes, the board will have to review and approve and make adjustments based on what those final revenue numbers come out to be.
And my final comment, I guess, on.
Assemblyperson McKee, we're outside the amendment.
Are
I mean,
we?
we're not talking about, and the amendment's not talking about state funds or
No,
anything.
that was
So-
just the thing that entered into why I was comfortable with making this amendment. But I guess in the final analysis, if this goes forward, then there we are, there we always are. There goes the teachers, there goes the kids, and administration doesn't really take a shot. And I'm gonna get a little ugly here, so I'm not gonna say anymore. But I talk to teachers every day, and they are outraged. And, well, they should be, when we cut 73% of the 100 is teachers.
Assemblyperson Hale, did you have? a
Yeah,
comment?
one final comment. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to kind of address the comparison Mr. Fonov made of the school district asking us for money and the manager asking us for money. It's really kind of an apples to oranges kind of situation here because the administrator asks us for money as according to the budget that we actually have power over. And when you come to the school board is an independent elected body, and they have power over their budget. So it's not the same type of ask. So I would just say, we have a very good school board. They're not asking for a large increase. There's a whole bunch of uncertainty in all of this. I think we provide them with some certainty, and I would like to see us continue to do so.
Assemblyperson Hours?
Not calling the question, but I'm ready to vote.
Or you're not voting, go ahead.
Assemblyperson Gamble or I don't know, which one of you were first? Okay, Gamble.
Talk too much. Sorry, just kidding. Katie, when the school board and the administration do their budget, is it much like our process? This is a process question. Do they get a binder and you guys go through it line item by line item? What is the process for them to approve the budget?
Through the mayor, to Assemblymember Gamble, we do not follow the same process that the assembly uses and have not in the time that I have worked for the district. So the school administration does make a recommendation to the board. We're available to answer questions. We do provide them with any information that's requested, but we do not go through the same sort of line item process that you go through at the assembly level. I'm not saying that we can't or that we won't into the future, but the process that we currently have in place, that status quo, if you will, has looked very different than some of what the assembly does in terms of their evaluation.
Thank you. Just a follow-up comment. I don't know the school board personally, but I have been told that they are conservative, so I would trust that they, when they consider the budget, that they do it conservatively. Thank you.
Assemblyperson Fonov?
That was actually very eye-opening what you just shared, that their just model is a little different. I think if it was similar to ours, I really think maybe there would be changes and we would like to. I want to know, Mr. Manager Brown, does the school get to ask the state for the increase and the state gives it, or state just gives whatever they gives and then deal with it? Or why is it different with us but not with the state? And I want to know that.
Yeah, so and I may need a phone a friend here, but through the mayor, it's a formula. In a very simple sense, the state provides education funding statewide based on a very complicated and complex formula. The borough tried to create a calculation, and that's where the 6.3 mils came from. And we did that for a number of years until it sunset. And then we went back to what we had before for many, many years, which was where there's an ask made and the manager puts a number in the budget. That's where we are today. And what that allows us to do, kind of to where Ms. McKee was going, is it allows us to look at state funding. It allows us to look at our assessed and praised values. It allows us to look at where the education is, where the district is. It allows us to look at facilities and maintenance needs and kind of evaluate and put together a local education contribution that seems to be reasonable given our current situation. Did values go up 13%? Did they go up 2%? It allows us to evaluate it based on all the conditions that are available to us at that time. That's where we are now. I don't have a problem with that system. It puts me in a pretty uncomfortable spot, so I would encourage you to remember that during my evaluation in 2 weeks. Because to your point earlier, it's kind of to lighten the moment, just for the record, but the idea, you know, is they can come in and ask, you said something about this. If the district had come in and asked for 5%, I would not have put 5% in the proposed budget. I'll just tell you that right now. I think I told them that in January. And so we kind of had a discussion about what we think that looks like. But in the end, it's always the Assembly's call. Always. I'm just giving you a start point. What I try to do is give you a start point that I think you can live with, so you don't have to make really large changes. And so we can talk about community cleanup for a half hour. Again, that was meant to lighten the moment. The point being, you know, it's a different process than the way the state gives money. I don't love the formula because the formula doesn't adjust to what happens in a year, whether it's COVID or something else where something really wonky kind of happens in the economy or whatever. Like, I want the ability to adjust to that based on what we think is the best solution. And then you all evaluate that and make adjustments to that. And so we thought 3% was reasonable. And the district will have to make adjustments if there's state funding and whatnot. And you'll always have the opportunity to look at their audit and go, you know, you guys are making too much money and we want some of that back, and whatever that might look like in terms of future appropriations, right? But that's kind of the way the process works. It's not like a one and done. This thing overlaps from one year to the next, and you're constantly evaluating that. So I know that was probably way more than you asked for.
If I might, Madam Mayor, I just want to make one important clarification that perhaps I should have been clear about in response to Ms. McKee's sort of original question that brought me into this discussion. The article in the paper where we were talking about positions that are eliminated, and I'll be clear, we're still not, there's not administrative positions that are proposing to be cut. The reason that there are teaching positions that are having to be cut right now is because we are relying on $17 million of ESSER funding to maintain operations this year. And so the $17 million is going away. And so as a result, we have been funding teaching positions for the last several years, regardless of dips in enrollment, and we've been able to do that with those ESSER funds. So if you look at the general operating budget, there aren't reductions that are in place in the general operating fund. We felt like it was more transparent to be clear about those positions that were going away, regardless of the funding source. So a lot at play, but one sort of important clarification, if you do look at the audit and you do look some of those nuanced information regarding where funds are, where they're going, and what no longer continues to be available. So if there are increases at the state level, those are really not increases to our overall budget, even if it is $680 per student, whether that's one time or base student allocation. That's still a pretty significant reduction in revenue that's available to the school district for fiscal year 25.
Hey, Deputy Mayor.
Quick question for Katie about the process. You say that you guys do not give your school board members a line item by line item packet?
Through the mayor, we do give them a detailed budget. We do that after their approval.
That's kind of basic.
Okay, I think most taxpayers would find that odd, and I think that's why you heard. So, and then do they get amendments packet? Like, they get like ready to fill out amendments sheets handed to them like we do? We get it with, like, when we get our budget stuff, they hand us a half a dozen or so to get started with each.
Through the mayor, I'm not familiar with the amendment packets, but I can understand based on what
So
I've
no.
seen tonight,
Okay.
and we do not provide that to
I
the
think-
school board.
I think because, I mean, we're talking about 3/4 of the money that taxpayers in the borough pay. So I think some sort of, is there a line item by line item, like that the average resident could just get on the school district's website and see?
Through the mayor, yes, it's there posted right now for what the board has adopted as a proposed budget.
But it's put out there after it's adopted. It's not given to them before they vote on it, you said?
Through the mayor, that has not been our practice, correct?
Okay. That answers it. Thanks.
Okay, are we ready to vote?
I'm not.
Okay,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Is bass backwards a bad word? Because if it is, then I won't say it. But it sounds to me that maybe that's what that does, when you say, give us the money, and then we'll tell you what we're gonna spend it on, because that's exactly what that boils down to. There's a statement put out by the Alaska Policy Forum, and right at the top of it says, unfocused education spending does not necessarily mean better results. And I think that's what we're seeing. And they cut back on a further page. The number of district administrators grew 17.7% between 2008 and 2019, so it grew in administration, 17.7%. The number of teachers fell 5.8% during that same time period, which was a decrease of minus 5.8%.
Is that for the Matsu Borough, or is that statewide?
I don't know, but we contribute to the whole thing. We're not isolated. I know we're doing better, but we're doing better than some of the other places, but still, if nobody even knows if you give me the money, I say, you give me the money, and then I'm gonna tell you how we're gonna spend it.
Well, that's their prerogative as elected a body.
Well, taxpayers, you need to be
I
paying
mean,
attention.
we can't say to the school board, okay, you got to follow our pattern. They
No.
are elected people, they answer to the public just like we do. How they decide to do that is their prerogative.
I'll bet you $50 nobody knows that, though, and I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. But I just think that word needs to get out. That's what I'm trying to do here tonight, is get the word out. It's time. I keep saying I'll shut up. I hope I will.
I think I've heard that before tonight. No, you're fine, ma'am. Okay, are we ready to vote? All right.
And get the members in the room to go ahead and vote on the primary amendment, please. Madam Mayor, it has failed with Assemblymember Fanoff, Bernier, and McKee in support.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is amendment number 14, which is on a white sheet of paper. And Assemblyperson Bernier, would you like to go?
I move to amend as follows and make any other conforming changes to the budget. The area-wide fund, non-departmental, transfer to 4-415/420/430/435/440/470 446.700 by increasing the appropriation by the amount of $5,000 and adding the capital project to Alaska SCTP nonprofit grant for the amount of $5,000 for the following project description: a grant to provide building materials. This project will decrease the proposed fund balance and will not increase the mill rate.
Okay, you want to go ahead and speak to it, sir?
This is for little $5,000 worth of build materials to build the little cabins for the skeet shooting out there at the gun club for the Neil Moss and the high school shooters.
Okay. Assemblyperson Hours, go ahead.
Just one question, was this submitted on the CIP list? No? Okay.
Okay, further discussion on amendment number 14. Is there objection to amendment number 14? Seeing and hearing none, then amendment 14 has passed. That's all the amendments that I have, so now I guess we open it up to the body for any amendments that they would like to propose. Assemblyperson Hours.
I don't have any amendments, I just have a question where we're sitting with fund balance and the mill rate.
Okay. Fund balance through the mayor to Assemblymember Hours is sitting at $464,759. The area-wide mill rate is sitting at 8.748.
Okay. Assemblyperson McKee,
And where
question?
were we last year as far as the mill rate was concerned? I've heard so many numbers tonight, my brain is on.
Through the mayor to Assemblymember McKee, the mill rate last year, or this current year that we're in, was set at 8.396.
So we've boosted it. Thanks.
Okay, further discussion on ordinance 24-024. Any further amendments, or are you ready to vote?
If I can, Madam Mayor, we need to find out the non-area-wide mill rate before we need to have Assemblymember Bernier move that once I get them written down.
Okay, so.
If you guys are ready to vote on the main motion, we need to do that first.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the non-area wide then is?
Through the mayor to the assembly, the non-area-wide mill rate, it remains at the proposed amount of .38.
And what was that last year?
The mill rate was at
Non-area-wide.
.387.
Okay, any further discussion? We ready for the motion? Okay, Deputy Mayor Bernier, go ahead.
I move to
Oh,
set the
I'm
mill.
sorry. Oh, just a minute, sir. Assemblyperson Fonoff has a question. I missed
Is
it.
there a way to take a short break to, before we vote on the budget?
Oh, sure, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so why don't we come back at 8:45? That gives you about 13 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
If I could have the assembly come back to order, please.
Is he looking at making a motion?
Gotta wait here.
I think he went to the restroom.
Oh, okay. So I should ask if there's any further discussion and ask if there's any objection. Any amendment. Okay.
Still needs to set the area wide.
Right. Is there any further amendments on ordinance 24-024? Okay, is there any further amendments to ordinance 24-024? Okay, then Deputy Mayor, I believe you have a motion.
I move to set the mill rate at 8.748 and area-wide at .38, non-area-wide.
Is there discussion? Is there objection to that? Yes, Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead. You have objection?
Yes, I do. I'm just, I can't vote for a package that includes something to me, which was,
Okay,
yeah, pretty much
okay,
that.
all righty. So, Madam Clerk, then I guess,
If the members in the room can set at the, or vote on the setting of the area-wide and non-area-wide mill rate. Yours didn't take assembly member yet. There we go. Madam Mayor, it passed with assembly member Fonoff and McKee opposed. Now we are on the main motion as amended.
so the next item is voting on ordinance 24-024 as amended.
That's the budget.
Is there objection? Or we have objection? Okay.
The members in the room can vote on the main motion. Madam Mayor, it passed with assembly member Fonoff and McKee opposed.
Okay. So the next item on our agenda is veto. I do not intend to do a veto on the 2025 budget items. Then the next item is parting comments. And so, Mr. Attorney, parting comments, sir?
Don't have anything tonight, thank you.
Okay. Assemblyperson McKee, parting comments.
Nope, I think I said enough, thanks.
Deputy Mayor Bernier, parting comments.
Thank you for coming out, and thank you, Lord, for all that you do for us. May you bless us, and may we keep you in our heart. In Jesus' name, amen.
Assemblyperson Hale, parting comments.
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Assemblyperson Nowers, parting comments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just kind of wanted to talk about process in a few ways. I'm glad we passed the budget we did. I think, I'm happy with the school budgeting. I think there's a value to having a stable process, because I think if we get in a game where, while I appreciate the wanting to send a message, if we get in that, then next year the school board says, oh, maybe we should ask for like extra 3 million, because they might come back and cut us, instead of like having a real good discussion with the other body and believing in their their process, instead of some of those games you see played. Call the question. I just will almost never, and I didn't want to tonight because I think assembly members should have a chance to speak their mind, so I knew Mr. Fonoff had something to say. And I think, anyways, process-wise, I want to give assembly members as much latitude as possible, get all their questions answered. Process-wise, I just really would urge this body to be careful about coming up with ideas without bodies. I do not think we run an overstaffed ship, and it's really, this body comes up with the ideas, but we don't do them. So I think just to be very cognizant of that and not adding, even if it doesn't seem like much, that we're adding the important stuff. And then lastly, just the Matsu Health Foundation came up on Tuesday, and I didn't know if everybody was familiar with the history of how the Matsu Health Foundation is funded and what occurred that years ago, that it used to be the Valley Hospital here in town, and it was a member-owned cooperative, and when it was quite a debate when they were talking about selling the hospital to a private out-of-state entity. And so people felt really strongly that there should be value still given to the local community. So the agreement that was made was to sell it, but to have a foundation that would get part of the profits from the part of the revenue from the hospital, so that benefits would flow to the local community. We wouldn't just have dollars going out of state to some out-of-state profit-seeking hospital. And so I know Matsu Health Foundation has put many, many millions of dollars back into this community, but I wasn't sure everybody was familiar with the history of the deal that was struck when the hospital was sold, and that the community at the time really wanted to make sure that some of the benefits of the hospital came back to the local community, and it wasn't all dollars going out of state. So, thank you. That's it.
Mr. Manager, parting comments? No. Madam Clerk? So, Madam Clerk, should I just state on the record that Tuesday's assembly meeting is canceled, right? Or how should we notify the public?
Generally, Madam Mayor, we don't try to cancel those meetings because the
Okay.
assembly has up until 5 o'clock tomorrow to reconsider.
Oh,
So we
okay.
like to hold those meetings, and I'm sorry, I should have said, yes, I have something to say. And so if we don't receive a reconsideration by 5 o'clock tomorrow, we will show it as canceled.
Okay, all righty, okay, all right, thank you for that clarification. I wasn't sure how that was handled. Deputy Mayor Yon, parting comments?
Yeah, in regard to my comments on Tuesday, I'm very, very familiar with the history of the Matsu Health Foundation and how the hospital, all that transition happened. I had my first cancer surgery in that hospital years ago. So I actually agree with how the structure is. I think it's a beautiful structure. What I find to be quite odd is that there's taxation without representation, and that's what it is when you have a board of directors who appoints the board of directors. There is no way, not one person in this room or any other resident in the Matsu Borough, member or non-member, has a say in who is on that board of directors. That would be like us assembly members choosing our next assembly replacements.
Is that a motion?
So it,
I'm sorry, I
yeah,
had to
no,
say that.
that was
We
good. That was
gotta
good.
have some
That was good.
laughs
Yeah,
tonight,
that was
right?
good. So I'm very familiar with the history of it, and I do agree that money should stay in our community. I just find it quite odd that there's a board of directors that chooses themselves from within with no outside say from our community. And I don't think anybody would agree that. That's taxation without representation. Clearly, that is exactly what that is. So I got a map here. Let's have some fun. I had the staff make a map, and it's brilliant. It's amazing. We can all look at it. I'm going to ask the clerk's office to please hang it up here on the wall over here for a while. This is all of our unmaintained and uncertified roads in every RSA in the district so that we can all look at it. There's lots of good numbers on the side that show how many miles in each person's RSA and everything. I know that is a a subject that could easily come up this summer that we might all be talking about. So I just wanted to get this out there so we could all start reviewing it. So that'll get hung up soon. Thank you.
Assemblyperson Gamble, parting comments, sir?
Well, it's much nicer being on this side of the table during the budget than being on that side, right, Director Barkley? Yes. I am a little concerned, Katie, about the budget process. I didn't realize how it worked, and so I want to do a little research into the code and see exactly how the school district is supposed to do their budget process. Lastly, I need to apologize to Dimitri, because I said that he talked too much, and he doesn't. In fact, he always makes good points that I have to sit over here and think about and say to myself, ooh, I never considered that. So anyways, I apologize, Dimitri. Didn't mean to hurt your feelings. It wasn't personal.
Assemblyperson Fauna, parting comments?
I guess apology accepted, but I wasn't even holding that against you, although you did take a good swipe at me. So it is, see, English is my second language, and sometimes people don't understand when you're thinking in one language and you're expressing in English. It's, I want to know, I mean, how many of you speak additional language or try to, you understand that there's a difficult little bit of different going on. So sometimes maybe my words are not as correct when I explain something, or maybe I did not express as like I would like to I would have had in a different language, but I try to still make my point clear what I'm trying to achieve with that. So I want to apologize for that. Sometimes maybe if I'm not clear enough, or it takes me longer to express the same thing, what would have a native speaking person would have been able to do that. So that's for that one. And then during the break, I actually had a real good discussion with Katie, and we discussed about how she was almost put on the hot spot here, on the hot seat, to answer something for the body. That's so I echo your concern, or I should say, hopefully there is going to be a better process so that they could adopt maybe more of our model. And then they'll have more maybe input in individual things, and then we would be, I think we already started working closer with them in the recent years, but I think there's still a gap that can be closed even better, so that we're not debating about this, but maybe perhaps during the budget we actually have a meeting of two bodies where we could kind of like a debate a little bit, and then it doesn't put on the Katie in that bad light, or it doesn't put us in a bad light when they're just going, well, Assembly cut the money from us. So with that said, I think it was a very healthy debate, and I don't get any money from Mental Health Foundation. So, and that's it.
So with that, I will adjourn the meeting at 9 p.m.